It's a conspiracy.
Get your finger out of my fucking face, dude.
No way. Oh my god! No way! Oh my god!
Welcome, everybody, to episode 100.1 of the Serial Chillers podcast. That's out of 1 million. You guys know how it goes. We are doing this from the Super Network studio. I am here with Hella Greg, who is in the Super Network bunker, 66.6 feet directly below us. How goes it, Hella Greg? Branding.
Letting that song play out.
It's a great song.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm well.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
So I'll run it at the top. We've actually recorded this episode before. We had some major technical issues, and it was essentially non-salvageable. It's not going to be heard. So this is a little season 1 throwback in the way it's happening. In that normally when you guys are hearing an episode, it's anywhere between 3 and 5 weeks recorded. Today is Saturday, and you guys will be hearing this Thursday night or Friday. So
I get to hear myself that soon.
Yep.
Surprise pause on the episode,
So
guys.
what you're saying is I'm under the gun and don't fuck around like I have. In the
Greg,
past.
I don't like to say under the gun. I just, take your time, but just like have it done by Thursday. You know?
Great.
You know?
Thanks.
And once you're done on Thursday, I'm actually gonna go ahead and need you to come in on Saturday. All right, so good to hear, Greg. I'm glad that you're ready for round 2 of episode 100 because it is a doozy in both subject and length. Remember to follow us anywhere you guys can. The Facebook is Serial Chillers Podcast, of course. Follow us anywhere you can on Facebook. It is Serial Chillers Podcast. The Facebook group is Serial Chillers Podcast. It is closed. Wait for acceptance. The Mod Squad's got you. Twitter is at Chillers Podcast. The email address, serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. You can call or text the show 1-805-666-2513. Serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com for t-shirts and fucking coffee mugs. And it's going to be cold soon, dudes. Get your hoodies now.
Thanks, Pauly Shore.
Yeah, it's the weasel. Serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com for all of your stickers and... or that's the other, sorry. Serialchillerspodcast.com for stickers and updates. We swear we're going to go back to updates. Rate and review everything if you can, if you will, especially on Apple if you've got it. Apparently, it's a very big deal. And lastly, if you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/serialchillerspodcast. Little as $1 a month. I'll tell you right now, I'm just going to say it because it's going to make it to where we have to do it, Greg.
I can cut it. We don't have to do anything.
Greg and I will have something for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but during season 5, including if you're at the $5 level, you're going to get Hella Conspiracies, which Greg and I just had a blast recording one from the bunker.
Recording 1, that was like 4.
Recording 4 from the bunker, and they're going to be a blast, but we're also going to have something else for you guys, everybody who is at the $1 level. So if you're a Patreon patron, you will be receiving this. So come over if you're interested in what's going on, give $1 to get the little bonus thing we're going to be putting out for you guys every now and again. Give $5 and you'll get Hella Conspiracies, possibly weekly. It might be coming out fucking monthly. I don't know, you guys. Just hang out. Hella Conspiracies is coming up, and I'm excited for it because now I've been a part of one, and I've seen how Greg does it. It's fun, man. The bunker is cool. It's a video medium, so it's a different thing for us, but we're excited to bring you guys inside the bunker. Well, Greg is.
Yeah.
Full access, man.
The more the merrier.
Yeah. Speaking of Patreon, every time you give, or the first time you give, the first thing we want to do is give shout outs to every single one of those people. So today we have very special guests here. You guys know them and love them. They require no introduction, but because you can't see them, I'm going to do that. In front of me, you have... And two, hey, what's up? What's up, Bigfoot?
I did hear the music.
Ah,
and it was beautiful.
Bigfoot.
That sounds like you just
How was
gobbling
that?
on a
Was that-
penis.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
On a plumbus. So
Plumbus.
Columbus, yeah.
Learned what a plumbus is today.
Get your
everybody.
grumble straight.
Yeah, I think that was more the dingle bop.
I need to wash my grumbus.
Whoa, it's working really good. We just had an order from the website. So, Bigfoot, he's already been talking, but you know who it is. Just introduce yourself. That's what you do
Hi.
here now, right?
Yeah. No, I'm Paul. Welcome.
Theme song.
So no one told you Paul was gonna be this way.
Can you play it? I really like it, and Bigfoot needs to hear it. Go ahead. I'll wait.
No.
Hey, we'll do it on a break. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm new here. Welcome to my place. I decorated for you. This is all for you. And Greg, welcome to you as well.
What's up, MTV? This is my crib.
Yep.
This is where the
This is where
magic happens.
Yep. Suck it, Bigfoot.
You don't have to go home.
Present
But
it,
you
Paul.
can't stay here.
It's going to be a whole thing. We got to do it on a break.
Present it. Ooh, hands out and everything. Perfect. So I figured since we had special guests and we have a few shout outs to get done, we would put our special guests to work and you guys will get your shout outs from a couple special guests. I don't know how you guys wanted to do it. If
Why
you
do
wanted
you
to.
keep making air quotes when you say special guest?
You know I didn't, and don't even put me in that situation.
I saw it.
So these are the Patreon patrons who have given over the last couple times since we did the last shout outs. I think it's probably been a month and a half or so. I like to let them build up just so there's a handful here. But take it away, boys.
Zach's Bach.
Jamie Butler.
Christy Frost.
Hey, I know Dustin Herzog. I know him personally. We're friends.
Amanda Schlichter.
Caitlin Noder.
Jade Baxter.
Francis. Ooh, that's a good one. Jaramillo.
Jaramillo. That's my guess.
All right.
There we go. George Elliott.
April Pugh. Words are
Christy
hard.
Kohlhaas.
Jackie Carter.
And Patrick Towle.
No, it's Tole.
Oh.
So thanks, Zach, Jamie, Christy, Dustin, Amanda, Caitlin, Jade, Francis, Georgia, April, Christy, Jackie, Patrick, everybody. Fucking bottom of our hearts. We say it every time, and I hope it doesn't sound disingenuous, but we do really mean it. Like giving $1 a month to us may not seem huge, but to us as a couple of guys who were playing Xbox 4 years ago and going like, we're funny, dude. We should start a podcast. And now you guys are willing to monthly give us, I mean, whatever percentage of your paycheck is very, it's very flattering. So really, thank you.
100 would be nice, but
That's what.
But we're realistic,
That's what the
right? We
cult. That's what
understand.
Greg's future cult requires. Just so you guys know, start preparing yourself for that when it does.
it's sort of
arrive.
like communism where you give me all your money, but I make sure you're always taken care of and don't want for anything.
What's your internet speed like?
Faster than 56K.
Merman.
Well, wonderful. Thank you guys for doing some shout outs.
You're welcome.
Really,
Felt good.
Really lightened the load.
Yeah,
I'd
it
like
felt
to
good
say.
over here.
Yeah, it felt good over here too. Trust me.
I saw it
Load
feeling
lighter.
good over there.
All right. Well, I mean, it's not gonna be the last time we laugh, but it's gonna be the last time we laugh before hearing about these guys. But
It's going to be the last time where we laugh where it stays in the episode.
So you guys know how the show works. Let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. If this is your first time here, welcome on episode 100. This is the season finale. I guess I should have mentioned that at some point. If we haven't talked about it enough yet, we are going to go on a little break here. I think we're going to take, I don't know how much time. We're going to get you some mini episodes in between here. There definitely won't be nothing for you. There's going to be something. But yes, we are going to take a break because this, believe it or not, requires quite a bit of work. Not only putting the show together, but we bring guests to every episode too, and it's a lot of work for the guests. They've got to work their schedule. We've got to work with their schedule. So it's just it's a labor of love, and we're here, and we're never going anywhere until you guys make us. But
You'll never stop the Simpsons.
so it's just thank you guys for getting us to 100 because there's been a few times where it's been rough, and I felt like giving up, and Greg talked me out of it. And so there's it's
'Cause if we didn't do this, I wouldn't hang out with any of you guys.
Yes.
I literally am secluded in a small fucking room. Like,
but it's
otherwise, I'd just be a guy who hangs out under your house.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
But it's seriously been a blast, and what we're 2 years and some change in, and we've got 100 episodes down, and so that means around 4 years we'll be at 200, and I can't wait to get there either, man. So it's been a good ride. You guys have been a big part too. Bigfoot especially. No offense, Paul, but Bigfoot's been around since the beginning. You had some anxieties. I'm glad you're on now and loving it. All right, I'm very.
It's
happy
okay to be a
have you.
late bloomer.
I had a heart-to-heart with Paul, actually, and I was like, hey, how come you've never been on the podcast? He said, I just, I don't want to. I hate the sound of my own voice, blah, blah, blah. So...
Is that how?
Verbatim.
And then I peer pressured him and was like, bro, don't be such a pussy.
And then I brought vodka, and vodka is your friend.
Yeah, and it was a good little icebreaker. We only deleted part of the things you said.
Here's the thing: you should have deleted more.
TM.
It was, but it was a very good time. We broke the ice with Paul, and I, just from the bottom of my heart here, I just want to give you guys a big thank you for being a part of it and always being consistent and helping me out. So. That's huge for us, man. We can't do it without you guys. We can't do it without the people that come on. We can't do it without the listeners. And hello, Greg, 200 episodes in. Thank you for all that you do, man.
Yeah.
And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Serial No, I'm kidding.
I was just gonna say,
It's been a great episode, guys. I won.
No, I mean,
Anybody else hear the score? I won.
I didn't write anything down, but I had a lot I wanted to say. We're 100 episodes in. It feels
I know. I
significant,
just,
yeah.
I was like, this seems like a victory lap, but like early.
Yeah, but I don't want to do it at the end. I know I'm not going to want to do it at the end. That's why I'm doing it now.
Yeah, this one's gonna be heavy. I know.
Exactly. So we'll talk about our victories now. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. Thank you for getting us to 100 episodes. We can't wait to do 9,900,900 more.
Isn't that a song?
We're for sure calling it.
Stomper.
We're for sure calling it quits after that. But let's fucking get it going. So
Hold on, it's been 2 years to get to 100 episodes. That math breaks down to
You guys would be 47.
2 million years before we're done.
yeah, no big deal, dude. So you guys know how the show works. Let me explain it for anybody that doesn't. Each week I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell them the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys can chime in on my story, and if you brought a story of your own that is true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious, please feel free to share it. Lastly, if you have questions about questions, make sure to ask questions, because I cannot answer questions about questions if you never asked questions. Are there any questions?
Yep.
Yeah. Then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast.
Also, I just want to say thanks to Nabisco for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah, chicken
Their
and
chicken and a
biscuit.
biscuit is off the hook.
Just holding us down. All right.
Drop some down the little chute
Nope.
into the dumbwaiter, because
Yeah,
I want some.
Put your mouth out.
All right, you ready?
Sounded like it was going into a bowl. Weird.
Sounded like a metal chute, you asshole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Don't kill the illusion, Paul.
I know the
As we told
illusion.
Lindsay on Death & Co., don't question our narrative, all right? Just enjoy the ride.
I have to delete that because I'm all about questioning narratives. I can't abide by that.
Yeah, but you left it in Lindsay's episode.
Ooh.
All right, so today's killers are
There's two?
Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. How familiar are you?
The latter's name sounds familiar, but that's it.
So, and we should also be clear.
I feel like I've heard those names somewhere prior.
Shut up for a second and let me explain what's happening.
Yeah, and I'll be right here. Go ahead.
Since the technical difficulties took place in episode 100, in kind of short notice, we needed to fill this episode back out. Bigfoot is always down. He wasn't able to be here for episode 100, so he was excited to get to be a part of the second airing.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
We want to thank Jeff and Robbie for... yes, praise him. We want to thank Jeff and Robbie for being here, and we want to apologize to them for not being part of the season finale, but they'll be back on soon. Paul was here last time.
I did it.
So to be clear, that was 4 weeks ago. We've had some time since then. I have retooled some questions. I in no way, shape, or form went and changed a lot. There are some things that are just switched up in wording that hopefully wouldn't trigger Paul to be reminded of some of the answers that he may or may not have gotten. Greg has made it quite clear, and I'll let him explain this to you.
Since you did this already, since you got to take a practice run through the course, should it result in a tiebreaker,
There will be no tiebreaker.
there will be no tiebreaker, and you will lose.
I mean, that's fair. I would like to state that I only scored 1250 off of like 30 questions in round 1.
And to be fair,
To be fair.
To be fair.
I don't remember anything that happened from the last time we did this.
I
So
bet you they
I don't
killed some
expect
people.
You to.
Yeah, I bet you they killed some people.
Again, we do these 4 or 5 weeks out for lots of reasons. It gives us time to schedule and get people in. It gives Greg time to edit. It's important that we have some space here. This is fine. We're going to get this done for Thursday for you guys. This is not ideal. This is how season 1 used to go, and that's why I have gray hairs.
This is how season 1, season 2, and like a good chunk of season 3 went.
Yeah, so we've got our shit together now, guys. So
Growing up.
I don't wanna.
Stop it.
Leonard Lake and Charles in question number 1. This is for you, Robbie. In what year was Leonard Lake born? All right. Okay. Bigfoot says 1944. Paul says 1940. Those are some great guesses.
Thanks.
Because
What did Paul say?
1940.
Okay.
Leonard Lake was born October 29th, 1945.
Oh, fuck.
Bigfoot gets 250 points, nearly nails the first question out of the gate. And
Just to make
Paul
it
had
even,
the
he sent
answers.
me the outline
Oh, should I-
before.
Oh, he's not lying.
Did you read it?
I
Just
can
the
neither
questions.
confirm nor deny.
I should have.
There's a reason your phone is on a stand.
Okay, so Leonard Lake was born in San Francisco, California, to parents Elgin and Gloria. Over the next 5 years, Leonard would have 2 more siblings. He'd have a younger brother, Donald, and a younger sister, Sylvia. His father, while not abusive, was quite an alcoholic, rarely around, and after the final child was born, his dad, Elgin, took a one-way trip to Seattle, where he would settle without the burden of his wife and family. Gloria would follow a few months later, seemingly to get Elgin at first, so she just dropped the kids off at her parents' house, but it became apparent, however, that neither Gloria or Elgin would be coming back anytime soon, and this would be the permanent home for Leonard, Donald, and Sylvia. So Dad's like, man, I can't fucking do this. Like, kids, a life. Like, I never thought this was going to be my shit. I'm fucking out of here. Paul thinks that's hilarious.
Do they at least get like all their toys? Do they get their Xbox?
It's like a
Shut
a
up,
dine
shut
and
up,
dash
shut up.
though.
45.
That's a pretty.
As the only
it's a pretty
parent in the
story.
room, Jesse, have you ever felt like that?
Yeah, I felt like it, but I've never dipped to Seattle. It does sound nice this time of year, though.
But it's like a classic dine and dash move. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go out to the car, and then you get up and go to the bathroom and just go past the bathroom and out the back door, and I'll meet you back there, and we'll get out of here.
Like, it's not the proverbial pack of smokes. It's like all right, listen, I'm
Yeah.
heading out. You play it cool for like 2-3 weeks. Say you're coming to get me, and never fucking go back.
And we can dump the kids with your mother. It's perfect.
Idiot. So, speaking of grandma, grandma is left to raise them. She's far more of a free spirit than her daughter and son-in-law, which would lead to question number 2. What was an odd practice she had that may have had something to do with Leonard's sexual proclivities later in life? Was it A, he and his sister had to share a bed? B, he made him take nude photos of his sister? C, made he and his sister kiss on the mouth? Or D, asked them to discover one another's bodies? Paul says B, photographs. Bigfoot says C, made the kiss on the mouth. Grandma believed in being open sexually and appreciating the form of the human body. She would walk around the house naked at times and often encourage Leonard to take nude photos of his younger sister so that he may have respect for the human form.
You know what this is like? It's like taking a test that you studied really hard for, but then you forget half of it. But when you're taking the test, some stuff comes back.
There it was.
There it was. I was very confident. I've never been more confident in an answer than that one right
In a
there.
serial killer's answer?
Yes.
I'm so glad Paul is officially saying that he remembers things.
I mean,
I gotta say I understand maybe where the grandma was coming from at first with like, hey, listen.
Maybe not the forcing of the photography, though.
Well, I would say like there's a right and a wrong way to do it. Like maybe some nice Helmut Newton photographs instead of, your sister.
The gray tones bring back vibes of Helmut Newton.
I also like that she was forcing them. So like, it wasn't just like, hey, take this camera and go take pictures of your naked sister.
And you know what? I actually think I said encouraged. It was like a heavy,
okay.
like she didn't make them, but she was.
I'm gonna give you extra mac and cheese if you take.
Well, it was
them.
very much like, look, like we're free here, and like to be even more free, like enjoy the body and spirit. Like here's a camera, like
The body's not something to be ashamed
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
I understand that message, but there's also,
No, I agree. I'm not saying that it was the correct move at
Yeah.
all, but she was this is pre-hippie.
The
She's
opposite
very
of me.
pre-hippie.
I'm all about shaming people's bodies.
I've seen you
cool.
do it. That's why I can't walk in public with you.
I've
You
seen
just walk around.
do
It's
it
like
It's those,
shame.
It's those
Shame.
weird knees.
with
Look
a
at those
bell.
weird knees, man. You got feminine hips. All
What are
right.
you gonna live with those bird arms?
So she obviously, like I said, it's kind of proto hippie. This is like early 50s. Yeah, grandma's just different. So the middle child, Donald, was very apt to lashing out towards his sister and older brother. However, Leonard was able to handle it for the most part because he's the oldest. He checked his brother, but he's, my younger brother sometimes got the better of me if, I didn't get the good drop. So we're very close in age, and so were these boys. So it can definitely, you don't win everyone, even if you're the older child. So Sylvia, on the other hand, had a pretty hard go of it. She is the youngest, and the middle brother was kind of a fucking shithead. She had to do all she could to keep Donald away from trying to hurt her. In 1958, in comes older brother, who offered her protection from Donald for one small thing. All she had to do to get the protection was blow him whenever he wanted it.
Ooh.
Yeah. Don't worry, sis. I got this. Here's the deal. Donald will not bug you anymore. You just have to suck on my pee-pee, and you can't tell Grandma. So just to let you know, is at this point, Donald's about 13. Sylvia's like 7. So this is not cool, man. He also enjoyed at this time killing mice, and I think that there are plenty of kids who do dumb things like this and don't become psychos.
Well, they don't have a grasp of like life.
Right. But I know it's an early sign, but I think it's less when kids are like killing mice in the barn and more when kids are taking the mice, finding chemicals from a chemistry set and dissolving them live.
yes, very very different.
Yeah. So this is according to a cousin of Leonard Lake who said that he was about the same age, and when they had spent a lot of time together as kids, he was the cousin Chester, and they spent a lot of time at Grandma's there. He talked about how he would dissolve them with a chemistry set. Leonard showed Chester once as he exclaimed to him as the mice dissolved that, "Look, it's just an ugly green goo."
That would make me uncomfortable.
It's like a Nickelodeon gack or whatever that stuff
Yeah,
is.
oh my God. So sometime in the early teen years, Donald was playing near train tracks, the middle brother, and is somehow hit in the head by a train. I think we had this conversation. Like we're guessing clipped. Like he had to have been clipped somehow. Like
You mean he didn't take the full force of a train
he
to his
didn't?
dome?
He didn't die.
Maybe he did, but the train just wasn't moving very fast. Because like when they're coming in and they have to slow way down and they got to start braking like a mile away.
Yeah,
Maybe
for
this
sure.
dingus was playing near the fucking platform and this thing was coming in at 2/3 of a mile an hour.
But it weighs 50 tons.
I believe that's 1 kilometer.
Good math.
And just, nudged him. But like since it's a fucking gigantic metal train, it, hit him. Like,
I don't know. I imagine him standing like a short distance away from where the train would be, and as it's coming by at any speed, just full on headbutt.
Oh, damn.
That's what I imagine. Probably wrong.
Probably, but I mean, it could just be like one of those things where it's like, oh,
thing
this
just hanging off the side and winged him when it went by.
right, like, oh, we go into this tunnel and like, who was talking about? Was it you
Me.
talking about? Yeah, like Greg knew a spot where you went into a tunnel and you kind of kicked. Explain it.
No,
I'll
you sat on the trestle like.
Oh, okay.
out by like Christmas Tree Lane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where
I know
that
what you're talking about.
that like 1-lane bridge that goes under. If you get up on that bridge, you sit down in this basket that's like 4 feet wide by like 2.5 feet deep, and it's got a big metal back on it. And then the train tracks are like 18, 24 inches in front of your face. And so when those trains go by there, they're nowhere near a station now. They're up to speed, so they're boogieing. And like you could reach out and touch it when it goes by. I don't advise it, but
If you like whatever appendage you're reaching out to touch it with.
yeah, and like there's been times where I'm like, dude, I'm gonna reach out and touch it, and I'd be like, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's
Smart.
fucking wild, man.
Smart.
So, however it happened, Donald doesn't die. Because that was my guess, as he was climbing, like on some dumb shit, and it went by and dink, it knocked him with the hook of a ladder or the mail hook or whatever, some shit like that. It's the 40s or
That's
50s.
true.
Like,
The
who
mail
knows?
hook.
The mail hook could very well still be a thing.
Can you imagine having that job?
Like putting the mail bag up there.
No, getting it off. Hey, we're gonna go full speed. Buy this bag of mail. Grab it.
It was. I mean,
Did you get it? No. Well, see it around.
It seemed pretty efficient. The guy just kind of swung the shit out, and it just made contact.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it.
Boom.
I've never
So,
actually.
it's my first day. I hung it backwards. My B.
I'm new. So Chester remembers some fucked up stuff about him. Donald takes a head injury from a passing train, gets clipped, whatever it was. It's very serious, very traumatic, but he does not die. He, however, would be required to need special assistance from the grandmother for the most of his child and early adult life. That was attention being taken away from Leonard and Sylvia, and I don't think that Leonard very much liked or appreciated that. He's already a real shithead kind of young teenager, and this isn't going to help at all. He's also, as a young shithead teenager, developed into quite an ultra-conservative military and gun-loving young man that seemed to have a vision for what he believed women were, and it was not, very positive. He's pretty proto neckbeard for 1963.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like if the internet was a thing, he would be on like the 1950s version of 4chan.
Yeah.
Weird. They had such a loving.
It was called
home.
Zero Chan back then. This is the fourth iteration. 1964, Leonard is going to take his love for the military and all things weapons into the military. Question number 3. What branch of the military?
Fuck. I didn't study this part.
Closest to the answer gets 250 points. 1,000 if you nail it. Bigfoot says Navy. There's only so many. Paul says Marines. What are you going to say, Gray? What do you got?
Nothing. I got A. I got B. Well, the answer was D, so B was closer. 250.
Paul said Marines. Casey said the Navy. Paul's going to get 250 more points because he was indeed a Marine.
It's almost like you've heard this before.
Guys, I'm gonna do so much better this time around. I can just feel
The
it.
look of disappointment Casey gave him when he answered it right, he just looks at him and goes,
Pure hatred. Hey, Casey, I'm gonna win this time.
No, you're not.
Here's the thing: is even though it's episode 100 and everything's special today, there still is no fucking prize for anybody. So,
But I feel better having beaten him.
here's the deal: is that
That wasn't my team.
sure it was. It's mine now. You let it lapse, so I
No,
purchased
you
it.
said it wrong.
Paul
Yes.
will sleep better if he wins tonight. Bigfoot will leave not giving one shit one way or another. So I'm glad you're
very
in the
true.
lead.
So let me
yeah, but
win.
could you imagine Paul having heard the answers already and then Casey coming in not caring at all as like and then just crushing the competition?
Well, Greg, let me tell you, with 27 questions to go,
There's
I
still
think
plenty of time, guys.
I think here we're at the beginning, and Paul's like remembering how we were chilling. But if you recall, also last time, Paul brought a radioactive tank full of vodka. So the later we get into this episode, I imagine the blurrier the details are going to get.
Can neither confirm nor deny the accusations against me. Lawyer Greg.
Yeah.
I did it right. All right, I did it right,
He's
guys.
like, well, shit. No, there's definitely evidence of that. I still have that can, I think, actually.
You can throw it away.
So-
I think we just call it Exhibit A.
No, we should throw it away soon.
So, Bigfoot, I have confidence in your skills.
Thank you, thank you.
I would think that as Paul gets farther from the beginning of this episode, things are going to get a little different. Hey, Greg, I don't remember what your hella great question was, but do you think in the meantime you could just come up with a completely different one? Since we got a little time.
Whenever you're done dying.
Yeah, no, take your time. I just little side step here, just to throw Paul for a complete loop and give Bigfoot at least one new question.
Well, and honestly, I'm pretty sure Casey would know it. So
Oh, okay, cool.
I remember the topic, and that's about it. I went radio silent during the topic.
Don't tell Bigfoot. I want it to be a surprise for him. Okay, yes, it is the Marines. Great job, Paul.
Thank you.
He enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps and did service in Vietnam during the war as a radar operator. During his first tour, he was hospitalized for, quote, exhibiting incipient psychotic reactions. He was returned to duty after a short time. We're in Nam. They're like, yeah, he's kind of fucking crazy. Like, yeah, but
We're in Nam.
is he good? They're like, yeah, I think just don't give him a gun. He's good. And so
Put him back in the radio tower.
they send him back to work. After his first deployment, let's see. After his first deployment, he would do 2 total. He meets and marries a woman named Karen Lee Minersman. She seemed very intrigued by Lake, and she said once early in their marriage, he was out late one night. And when she asked him what he was out doing, he clued her into the fact that he was breaking into a storage facility to steal something. Question number 4.
I don't remember this.
What did he tell her he was breaking into the storage unit to steal? Was it A, a motorcycle, B, government equipment, C, a cargo van, or D, his own stuff back that had been stolen? Motorcycle, government equipment, cargo van, his own stuff back. Both of you guys said D, his own stuff back, but he went there to steal government equipment. I think she found it very puzzling initially, but she, I think, assumed that it just had something to do with his involvement in the Marines. So she's like,
And
he's
he
a
needed to steal it.
Marine, and he's going in. Well, like, I don't know. Plausible deniability is more what I'm thinking here. But she also remembers him that he was fairly apt to regular diarrhea. This is a pretty funny part of the last episode. They mentioned this on last podcast, and they kind of made a pretty funny jokes about it too. But he's apt to like regular sessions of like days long diarrhea. So what he would do, instead of like heading down and this should have been a question. Instead of like heading down and grabbing some Pepto or something to relax the tum, maybe get you regular again. He would lay in bed and eat as much chocolate and cheese as he could because that stopped you up. So if you're pissing out your ass,
Eat
you eat a
chocolate
bunch
and
of chocolate and cheese, you'll stop pissing out your ass. So if you just spend a few days eating some chocolate and cheese, diarrhea should dry up pretty promptly.
you should just do what I do and just do a bunch of fucking heroin, and that gets me all stopped up.
Gets you every time.
It's just such a weird thing. So during his leave, he would get married, like we said, but he would also tell people how much he just loved killing in Vietnam, which he was a radar operator who was not given a weapon. He did not. He was behind.
No, he was killing the enemy's morale.
There we go.
That's what he was doing.
He was behind, 6 waves of people with weapons. So they were like, this guy doesn't need a weapon. Also, remember that diagnosis that's really long that we read earlier? Yeah, he has that. So we, don't give him one. So he began to administer to his wife what he called controlled beatings. This was, his
That's the weakest fucking shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't worry, babe. These are controlled beatings. There's some shit you could really be getting
I'm in
into
control of the situation here. So, square up, look the other way, bite down on this. It's going to hurt a little bit.
Also, did I mention how much I fucking love Vietnam? Yeah. So, at the time, too, he comes back and he gets super obsessed with this book called The Collector, which is about a butterfly collector who eventually becomes obsessed with and takes a woman prisoner in his ultimate act of collection. So he gets real super interested in a creepy fucking obsessive kidnap book. And I think he's going to live his life by this book for the most part. In the book, the woman who was captured was named Miranda. So the new goal in his mind was to get this type of woman that he could, be his, collect. He would call this Operation Miranda. What a fucking shithead.
Creative, though.
He called
with that
all of
name.
his like day-to-day things ops. Like, oh, I got some ops to do. It's like, oh, really? What do you do? It's like, well, first pick up dry cleaning. Then I was thinking about making a summer squash salad for dinner. So Operation Supermarket is going to be after. Like, this was this guy's...
We'll start doing that.
I
Every time
totally
you text me,
fucking
hey, how you
forgot to tell
doing?
you, dude.
What's that?
I totally fucking forgot to tell you.
Yeah.
After the last time we did this, I started doing that.
Yeah. You're
Yes.
just calling everything ops now.
Yeah.
Got a couple ops to handle. Oh, really? Yeah, I got to get the tires rotated.
I did it for like 3 days, and then by like day 4, I was like, man, I feel like a piece of shit and kind of want to take a woman hostage. So I stopped.
But have you read The Collector?
It's good book. Anybody else love Vietnam?
So, yeah, he's got Operation Miranda going. He's got the idea of what a woman should be, and he used the term off-the-shelf lover many times. He wanted to be able to put them away when he wasn't using them. In addition to the controlled beatings that he was now giving Catherine, she was forced to work as a stripper to support Leonard, who was said to just sit around gardening and reading and pontificating on the Collector to himself or anybody who would listen.
Where do they
So
live?
you weren't fucking around with that whole summer squash salad thing.
Like he's legit. Like he gardens and he invites people over to be like. So
Have you ever read The Collector?
Like that's what he fucking
great book.
talks about.
He
doesn't-
sounds like a philosopher to
I
me.
think
He's
he
a member
wa-
of like 18 book clubs. He just rotates.
He's
Leonard
trying to
came
get
by,
them to
we
read The Collector.
and then we never saw him again.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys didn't read it? The book
so
can also be used as
if
a
it-
hat.
if he wasn't, I love that. If he wasn't talking about The Collector, he was talking about being a survivalist. So this is a big part of his life too. He's a fucking survivalist. He went to Vietnam. Mainly his idea of survivalism was that he buried food and supplies in plastic containers in the woods. Eventually,
Bro, I kind of feel bad.
for him,
Yeah, because if he had YouTube, he would probably have millions of views right now with his survival channel.
You're probably right.
I don't know, because I think like how much trial and error do you think was in that? Where he was like, he just buried food at first and then was like, nah, that didn't last.
Well, with the magic of YouTube, you can just put brand new stuff in there before you dig it back up and be like, oh, look at how well it was preserved.
In this Ziploc bag for
For-
4 years.
Yeah, for the length of this video.
Yeah. So you might be right. Who knows? But he's definitely
He was before his time, that's for sure.
yeah. Just wait.
He was something.
So eventually, the stripping that Catherine is doing is not enough for Leonard. She's not making enough money. So he forces her into sex work as well to bring in some additional income. He was constantly fighting for her to get involved in a three-way with him. Like, come on, it's not unreasonable. You're a sex worker now. Well, come on. I got $40. So he after 2 years, she would just leave him completely. So
It only took that
smart.
long.
understandable. Yeah, good job for you, Catherine. So he would then head out for a second tour of duty, and I do not downplay anybody that is served. I appreciate it, unless you're Leonard Lake like don't please don't like. Thank you for being in the military, but this guy like he was the Simpsons. Like, when do we get the gun? Like, listen,
Hey, I'm not giving you a gun until you tell me your name.
So, he exclaimed that they had to force him to come out of the jungle during a second tour. Like, we got to get Lake out of there. He's just in too deep. He's just out there killing. He was too busy using his survivalist skills to make kill after kill in Vietnam.
With what?
Lake is 100% documented and accounted for during his tour of Nam, and the entire time was spent behind about 6 lines of defense as a radar operator, in which he was unarmed. So unless he was like taking his, like, all right, men, you get the day off, like, head into town or whatever you're gonna do. He's like, nope, I'm going out killing. That's what I'm doing. I'm heading out to the fucking jungle, and I'm killing.
I imagine him killing like MacGyver, just throat rips. Just pure throat rips. Just a bunch of dead bodies with no throats.
This is fucking Roadhouse.
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 So this has a lot to do with the fact that the Marines pegged him as having impending schizophrenia, but at the time, when people were being drafted into the war, they're willing to take someone who is willing to go voluntarily. They just made sure that, again, it was a job where a gun was never put into his hands. He was said to have had unquenchable sexual appetite at this time as well, and when he returned, all he did was want a woman, and there were some passing interests that usually didn't have any second experiences with him because he's fucking weird, and second dates weren't easy to come by. If they did, they didn't last very long. He was known to be incredibly charming initially and loving to begin with, but he would lure them with the best and keep them as an... He gets them in, and then he just starts showing his crazy pretty soon. One of the big things he liked was nude photography. Still real into it. Thanks, Grandma.
Have you seen my sister?
Yeah, so
Got a picture right here on the wall.
when I say major hobby for him, he had like albums full of nude photography of women he had been with, women he just agreed to let take, scandalous or nude photos of. So he was keen on showing this to anybody who was interested. Very proud of his photos. So in 1971, question number 5, he's going to leave from the military. How? Will it be A, an honorable discharge, B, dishonorable discharge, C, he goes AWOL, or D, he faked his own death? Never take me out of the jungle. I'm dead now. I'm a dead man. You found my dog tags. Now I live in the jungle. This is my home.
I feel like that's from Tropic Thunder.
I don't know, but maybe.
That sounds like...
I've only seen that once or twice.
Oh, I want to say Robert Downey Jr.'s character in that movie with the arrow.
Both Paul and Bigfoot say dishonorable discharge. However, in 1971, after 2 tours in Vietnam, he was given an honorable medical discharge, having been diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder. So, still
Don't
got
give me
all
that
your
one.
rights and stuff. So, after this, he moves to San Jose, California, and attended the San Jose University, but dropped out after only 1 semester and joined a hippie commune on 5,000 acres called The Ranch.
Creative.
This is where he would meet a woman named Venus. Around this time, Lake became obsessed with the idea of global nuclear war and developed a kind of survivalist paranoia, and with it, an obsession with guns. Before, he was super into guns. Like, he's military, he likes guns. Now he's like, I'm gonna fuck this gun. Like, he's gone... He's collecting at this point. Weapons cache is happening. Another thing that he was proud of and he thought was genius is that he had sewed a bunch of cyanide into all of his clothing just in case something popped off.
I forgot about that.
He also had 1 tooth with the filling of a cyanide capsule. That seems dangerous to me.
Yeah, I was just thinking, can you imagine eating some like chicken biscuits and just chewing on the wrong tooth and be like, ooh,
It just cracks. Like, oh, fuck.
this tastes wrong. I'm dead.
Or washing your clothes and then you're like, fuck.
I think that was my question
Tie-dye
last time.
capsule.
Like, does he take him out every time?
I don't think Leonard Lake's kind of guy that washes his clothes. Or you go dry
Especially
clean.
in a hippie communes.
Just go dry clean. So, Venus is quickly introduced to the fact that he loved to do nude photography, which she was not totally against. She's also hit with waves about his survival skills and Operation Miranda. He's open about this. Like, I'm going to get a woman.
I mean, if you're,
wanna put her
I'll
on
give
the
him
show.
that. Like,
You're just going to put it out there?
well, it's not really a hot take, but that's honest. Like putting it out there and being like, hey, this is what I'm after.
I
Like,
don't know if you're
I-
interested. You can hang out until I find something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if she's like, yeah, all right, like I could be into that. Like I'm not gonna kink shame anybody, especially in the 50s. That people, and there was enough of that going on. Or
I think we're into the 70s now.
even still, there was still a lot of kink shaming going on. People were real vanilla, man. And
Not in 5,000 acre hippie communes.
yeah, but I can only imagine, like, it's hard for him to find somebody who would be into that. So he's putting feelers out there and doing it the honest way. I can't condone the stuff that he does, not even a little bit. But like, being like, hey, this is what I'm into. Is that something that jives with you? No.
Let's
Maybe?
not find out in 10 months. Let me just ask you.
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
When-
Don't. Yeah, don't make it weird later. Just tell me now. You into being a hostage?
Women appreciate honesty. I've always
Do you
said
want to
that.
wait until Stockholm syndrome sets in and then answer?
Because that's 2 to 3 months away.
So you guys are kind of right. She's in the loop with what his crazy ass wanted. That's like about what it is. I think she misunderstood a lot of what he was saying and like how serious he was.
This guy's hilarious.
Either that, or she misinterpreted it because she thought Leonard had a far more altruistic intentions initially, because he wanted to like build this giant shelter. He gets like, this is like a quiet hippie commune, and he gets like a backhoe and starts digging into the fucking side of this hill, like this big old shelter. And I don't know if he told her this or she just gathered this, but she was like, I thought he's building a shelter for the people who could escape the cities when there's nuclear fallout. Like, we'll have a place to go. So that was what she'd later say is like, here, like, that's what I thought was fucking happening at the time. And here this is, but
Yeah, we'll have a shelter.
Yeah.
Us too. Me and my hostage.
So when he began to build the giant shelter, it was being dug into the hillside with a giant backhoe. Okay, so she's into it. She's into the nude photography. She's thank you. I'll come get it right now.
Looks like beef jerky.
She's in the loop. She's kind of into what he's doing. She's into the huge shelter because she thinks it's got altruistic intentions. The backhoe's frowned upon in the 5,000-acre hippie commune. They're like, dude, you can't fucking come and build. Like, dude, the whole idea is here is we're chilling, we're off the grid. You're bringing a backhoe in and fucking doing major construction. They get through it, whatever. He builds the shelter, and while building it, Venus is eventually going to leave, like mid-building of this. Question number 6. Why would Venus eventually leave Leonard? Is it A, he blew up part of her house? B, he pushed her off a ladder? C, he called her mama bitch? Or D, he threatened to kill her? Both Paul and Bigfoot say that he pushed her off a ladder. Well, Venus and Leonard Lake were together until one day, while on top rung of a 6-foot ladder, Venus
He called
felt
her
a
mama
shove
bitch.
from underneath, and Leonard laughed as she hit the floor. So 250 points for each of you. Man,
I'm winning still.
yeah, let me think here.
Gotta make sure he can't see my card. I feel like he would cheat.
Well, I mean, it's a good time to cheat.
It's
I
a great
encourage
time.
it.
If
If there was ever an episode where cheating is encouraged, this is probably it.
yes.
Just catching up on the score here.
I'm winning.
Okay. Bigfoot's got 500 points. Paul's got 750 points. What a whopping fucking lead. Venus takes the getting kicked off a ladder as her chance to get up and go. Not one for conflict. She sold the house to Leonard for next to nothing, and so began Leonard's beginning into creeping out his neighbors whenever possible, explaining Operation Miranda, talking about the collector, being an overall creep, survivalist, you know, neckbeard, nude photo album stuff. In addition to showing any visitor his naked photo albums, he sure did like to talk about Operation Miranda and his M-ladies. He would also speak aggressively, yet nonchalantly, to neighbors about how he had killed his brother. He had not killed his brother.
What if he actually met a woman named Miranda?
He's like, I'm done.
Was that good for you? She's like, what?
She's the one.
So he meets while living on the commune a dude named Otter, one of his only friends. Otter sounds dope. Otter also
hang out by
claimed to
rivers.
Lake that he could bring back unicorns through some molecular studies that he had done.
Yo.
Otter sounds like he doesn't have quite enough teeth.
Listen, I think I could bring back unicorns. So to prove it to Leonard, he showed him that he was already in possession of one of these so-called unicorns. Check it out right here, Leonard. I did some studies, and I take this, and look, this is a unicorn. It was a goat.
Why
it was
is
like,
it, why is it a plural unicorn?
because it makes it easier to go. It was like a goat that either Otter had sawed one of the antlers off or horns, or
Was it
it
even centered?
well, that's I'm not sure. I've never seen this unicorn. I don't think there's a picture of the unicorn, but
What if there was?
I think it was either a goat with one horn or some type of deformity where the one horn, whatever. It was a unicorn, man. Otter did it.
I mean, that's just, you know,
I'm
years and years.
asking you seriously, have you seen one in real fucking life? I'm telling you, man, I've been studying this for years.
I like that it sounded like Russ from
I'm
Supervisor.
ugly. I'm stupid. I got nits. So either way, whatever, man. The unicorn was named Sir Lancelot, and he accompanied Leonard Lake to many Ren fairs.
Shut the fuck up. His name was not Sir Lancelot.
Sir Lancelot, you and I will go to a Ren fair together. And that's what they did. Literally, Leonard Lake used Sir Lancelot to pick up women at Ren fairs.
Hey, wench, look at my unicorn.
Yes.
Name's
And
Sir
bring
Lancelot.
me a goblet of mead. So,
And a turkey leg.
in 1977, at one of the Ren fairs, one of the women he meets is named Clarilyn Ballas, a 25-year-old teacher's aide. Question number 7. Leonard would give her a nickname that would pretty much stick for as long as we'll know her.
Was it Miranda?
What is it?
It was Miranda.
Is it A, clarinet, B, cricket, C, Linny, or D, cucumber? Her name was Clarilyn Ballas. Bigfoot says cricket, as does Paul.
Chirp,
Wait,
chirp.
he didn't even cheat and still got the same answer, and it's correct. Her name for him was cricket. So, 250 to 1,000. Paul's still holding on to that monster. So she
Yeah,
was quite
yeah.
a match for him in many ways.
Nope, you muted.
His name for her was Cricket.
Yeah, you knew what I mean. She was quite a match for him in many ways. She was super. People are definitely used to me not saying things correctly after 100 episodes. That's what my assumption is by this point. Or just thanks for being such a good editor, Greg.
Word's hard.
Why say lot word when can't say few? So she was super into the home photos that Leonard loved swapping with other photography makers. So pornography makers, excuse me. Leonard is like, think about it. Like pre-internet, you had, there were nudie magazines, but like, if you wanted that amateur gritty raw shit, you had to just meet other people who also took naked photos and be like, what's up, dude? I'll throw you a stack. You throw me a stack. Like, what's up, man? So that's what Leonard would do. He would like find pen pals who also shot amateur pornography and would swap it out with them. Like that was the system then.
Still feel like that'd be difficult.
Oh, I don't think it was, but think about how forward he was about Operation
gonna say, it's
Miranda and
Probably not that hard for him because everybody he met, he was like, hey, do you like nude photography?
yeah. He's
How do you
"What's
feel
up?
about
This-
kidnapping women and making them sex slaves?
This is a unicorn, and my friend Otter gave it to me. Hey, what's up, guys?
Shut the fuck up, Otter.
You're not part of this, man. So
He must have seen you.
He shot his shot a lot.
yeah, I think if you go Kobe style and just hit volume, you're gonna hit on something.
Then you'll end up being one of the greats.
There you go. So
So you cut your fro.
yeah, so he's got his gritty amateur pornography people he trades with. Cricket's into it. She at most seems to be able to handle it with Leonard, and she's pretty much into the life he's leading. Leonard was in constant need of someone to talk to about survival, and Cricket just wasn't enough for him, so he would put his ads in a survivalist magazine and the classifieds in his area. He would do this, of course, because you wouldn't give your real name, under question number 8. What was his fake name? Was he A, Jim Stanley, B, Rick Tucker, C, Tom Myers, or D, Al Thompson?
I gotta say, if I'm gonna use a fake name, I think Richard Tucker would be a good one.
Dick Tucker?
Zing! I got that one. I
I think
got
that'd
that
be
joke.
funny. I just think that'd be a
All
funny
right,
one.
Bigfoot and Paul both say C and are both getting a correct answer because, yeah, Tom Myers. He's Tom Myers, guys. That's who he would put his ads out as, Tom Myers.
It's a great name.
He pretty quickly gets a bite from a gentleman named Mark Novak. He would meet him through the ad. Novak would come and spend several days hanging out with Leonard Lake since they had the shared interest of survivalism. Although at the end of their hanging out, Mark just referred to Lake mostly as a shit talker and didn't think that there would be much of anything that he would need from him ever again. So, like, yeah, I hung out with him a couple days. Kind of a shithead. Pretty good guy, whatever. No, I don't see myself being friends with him. Besides Cricket, he had one other friend, and his name was Charles Gunner. They referred to Charles Gunner under the beautiful moniker Fat Charles. Pretty much, he's like living out in this commune. It's like near trails and shit. So he's always like belittling Fat Charles. And whenever Fat Charles would come, he'd say like, "Hey, we're going on a hike," and take him on like, the double black diamond 7-mile loop and be like, "Come on, fat shit, let's get this thing done." And that was like his
Casey, you love body shaming people. You want to get in on this?
No, I was just gonna say like that's good, because then
he's getting
they get it
Fat
done,
Charles into shape.
Well, maybe he was just like, hey, once they get up here, then I can tell them, hey, you did the hardest hike out of all these mountains. Now imagine what you can accomplish.
Now
I just
lay
think he's
over
a
on
really
your
good
side
dude.
and let me roll you back down, you fat fuck.
He's a really...
Did you see the article about the guy who lost 150 plus pounds because his friend texted him "fat fuck" every day, and it just like motivated him.
I'm telling you, body shaming works.
I tried to body shame Maddox for being too skinny because that's what like he wanted me to try to motivate him to go to the gym.
Yeah.
And everything I said, he just laughed at and didn't work
I was
very
gonna
well.
say I don't know that you can shame a guy like that.
No, it didn't go on for very long.
You're like, this is too much work. Okay, so
I tried hard though.
Fat Charles is hanging, but definitely struggling with these activities that Lake is planning for them. He's an uncomfortable dude. I'm not even like a very fat dude, and I'm uncomfortable doing most things. So
Most things.
yeah, most things. He would marry Cricket in 1981, and then things would change forever when they had a third join that little crew. We're going to travel back in time to talk about the early life of a man named Charles Ng. So we're going to take a break here, turn the AC on, travel back in time, learn about Charles Ng and some other fucked up stuff. Come back or we'll kill you.
He's not gonna kill you, but come back still because we'll miss you.
Remember when the psychologist was like, "Tell me, Bart, are you ever bored in school?" "Oh, all the time, sir."
Shut up.
Remember when he saw the devil and the devil was like, "Remember, lie, cheat, steal, and listen to heavy metal music."
Shut up. Hey everyone, it's Jesse and Greg, and we just wanted to tell you about our other podcast called The Super Simpsons Show, which is also on the Super Network.
Remember when the sushi chef was like, "Poison, poison, tasty fish."
So Greg and I talk about The Simpsons episodically from start to finish and shed some new light on episodes you haven't seen in years.
You remember when he was like, "My real name is Armin Tamzarian."
We can be found wherever you get your podcasts and on Instagram at Super Simpsons Show. That's SUPR.
Remember Carl? "My mother told me never to kiss a fool."
So join us in Springfield. It's a hell of a town.
Sometimes I don't understand what it is I'm trying to explain. I'm lost, but I know where I am. Idiotic messages to and from my brain. Yeah, I've got too much to say. Yeah, too much to say. Yeah, I've got too much to say. You want an answer,
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 100, season finale. We're doing it big, and by that, I mean there are tall people here.
Well, he's, just above average.
He's tall,
So that means tall.
Yeah.
No, you're above average.
Just because you're incredibly above average doesn't mean that other people who are above average aren't
Just
tall.
because you have weird
is.
knees.
I have great knees minus one meniscal tear. That's minor.
Sounds
It's a
kinda weird.
minor meniscal tear. His doctor told him not to ball. He's defying doctor's orders.
So yeah, just stop
Ball is
being
life.
active.
Ball is
I was
life.
like, but I don't want to ride a bike. Swim. I just stand there in the water.
Yeah. He's like, look, I'm in the deep end.
Standing because I can.
All right, well, yeah, doing it big. Episode 100. We're back. We're taking a break soon. Hey, Halo, Greg, how was your break?
Great.
Good. So we're coming back with Charles Ng, and it's like we're starting all over again since we got two killers. We're starting back at the beginning. So let me ask you motherfuckers a question. Number 9. In what year was Charles Ng born?
Hurry up.
You already have it?
Dude,
It's almost like you've already heard this story before.
Don't worry, it's wrong. Ooh.
Bigfoot says 1951. Paul says 1952.
Price is right at him.
Oh, dang.
You guys have been incredibly close, like on all answers. It's
Are-
very weird.
How is he seeing my cards?
He's in tune. He's astral projecting over the bowl of chicken biscuit.
I thought I had an
Remote viewing.
anti-astral
I am a remote
projectile
viewer.
card.
Yeah, remote viewing. Sorry. So, I know all my stuff. Christmas Eve, 1960. Charles Ng was born. That's right. Paul's going to get another 250 points. Paul's got 1,500. Bigfoot has got 1,000. Still no thing, it's 20.
I've outscored my entire last episode. Good
Yeah.
for me. Good for me.
Great job, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for the praise, guys.
So Charles Ng is born in Hong Kong, December 24th, 1960. His father, a business executive, was strict and disciplined him through physical abuse mostly. From an early age, he displayed an obsession with martial arts and fire setting, and also had a lifelong addiction with stealing. This motherfucker loved to steal, you guys. It's going to be pretty much a ongoing story mode here. So, at the age of 15, he was arrested for shoplifting and sent by his father to a private boarding school in England in an attempt to change him. He's like, dude, fuck it. We're going from Hong Kong, dropping you in England, getting you away from whatever's causing you to do this.
I bet he still steals in England.
So, he gets to the boarding school, and when he gets there, it doesn't take long before he is expelled for stealing from his fellow students, and he is sent back to Hong Kong. In adulthood, he would move to the United States and enroll in Notre Dame de Namur University in Belmont, California, but dropped out after his first semester. October of 1979, he was arrested in relation to a hit-and-run accident and forced to pay for damages. In 1980, he lied about his nationality and forged an Indiana birth certificate and joined the military. What are you looking at, Greg?
Is that it?
Is that the real deal?
Leonard Lake with a unicorn.
Greg found it.
It's your motherfucking boy.
I'll be honest. That looks way more realistic than I imagined in my
That
head.
looks-
There, that bad boy.
Yeah, that
Look how
looked
proud that fucking horn is.
Dude, I'm more impressed by the flat top that it's rocking. It's like a mullet.
Right here, this goat.
Yeah.
This goat's
But-
a straight business. This goat's gonna punch you in the chest and then pull your shirt
Dude,
up
look
over
at that
your
party
shoulders.
in the back, too.
Hey, but it's got Billy Goat Gruff going strong, too. It's like,
Yeah.
yo, this is called a goatee for a reason, bitch.
This is the picture you post on social media on Thursday.
Yeah.
Y'all want to see a goat unicorn?
Go to corn.
We found it.
Nice job, Greg. You either found a picture you couldn't find, or I misunderstood that they did find it and didn't understand. Good job, man. Good photo.
Good for you.
Good for you. Good for you. So yes, he lies about his nationality, forged an Indiana birth certificate, and joined the military. Question number 10. Also, you don't have to be born in the United States to join the military.
You just want to do it for fun.
Question number 10. What branch of the military did Charles Ng forge his way into? Bigfoot says it's the Navy. Paul says it's the Army.
We answered it.
Charles
differently.
Ng joins the United States Marine Corps and be stationed in Hawaii. So no points for anybody on question number 10. Plenty of time to go. The U.S. Marine Corps, he's in Hawaii. Ing is said to have been an average soldier who seemed to be more focused on impressing his fellow soldiers than actually getting ahead of the job. Unlike Lake, who had illusions of death and heading into the military and was called on it, Charles seemed to just fly under the radar as much as he can. Initially, some officers and other soldiers... Thank you, Greg. Some officers and other soldiers, however, recall him running his own chants of no kill, no thrill, no gun, no fun. So when he's running
that sounds like a party.
when he's out like running his warm up laps, he's just running, doing like no kill, no thrill, no gun, no fun.
Yeah,
I don't know what I've been told. That guy is fucking crazy. He was often entertainment to other soldiers, as he was known to do kung fu for them and kick things out of their hands when they held them up really high.
bottle cap challenge before the bottle cap challenge.
He was about breaking pencils. Like they would hold up pencils, and he'd get up there and fucking wah and kick that shit out of their hand. And like, I think to the point where like it became a thing where officers were like, "God damn it! Like, turn around, shut the fuck up, and stop kicking pencils out of his hand. You're distracting everybody else, son of a bitch."
Also, why do we not have any whole pencils?
I need a Dixon Ticonderoga number 2, and there's not a single one around here.
I am tired of using these fucking Bic clear pieces of shit pens.
Okay, so during this time in the military, he met a man named Mark Novak, who he became pretty good friends with. Remember Mark? He's our good buddy, Mark, who spent some time with Tom Myers, or, as we might know him, Leonard Lake. Charles Ing was intrigued by the idea, but had some of his own at the time. But his kleptomania didn't stop when he got into the military, neither did his evil plans for just about everything. Because he was a klepto, it was a very bad impulse control issue, and he probably rarely planned or premeditated his crimes. However, he was fucking in them when he did. He began to make friends with the guard of the armory and convinced him to pretend to be asleep while Charles Ing snuck in and looked around at what he wanted. So they could befriended this guy so much to be like, listen, you won't even get in trouble if you say you fell asleep and I went in there. Like, that's a good story.
Nobody gets in trouble.
And this guy was like,
asleep on the job.
Yeah, that actually kind of makes sense, man. Good call. So Ing does this. The guy goes in for it. And as a result, this would end up in Ing stealing a cache of weapons and ammunition, pistols, long-range rifles, grenade launchers, and automatic rifles. What is the estimated dollar amount of the weapons stole by Ing?
Like today or?
It's then.
Then.
Bigfoot says $212,000. Paul says $1 million. Bigfoot's going to close the gap because it was a paltry $11,000. So I'm not sure why it's so low or if the information's bad, but I checked this information in 2 or 3 sources, and
it's because guns are heavy. You want to carry fucking $250,000 worth of guns?
Well,
No,
and
I wanna carry $1 million.
I will say, Jeff made a great contribution. He can be here tonight, or he couldn't. We re-recorded. I didn't want him to be here and have all the answers, and Paul's here because of circumstances.
Yeah.
Paul was supposed to be assistant to the co-host and not competing tonight. Just
Assistant co-host.
for the assistant to the co-host.
Assistant co-host.
So he is here competing, but Jeff said that the government tends to overpay for weapons, but can get them like on the cheap. So that's maybe why like they're giving it to like the number that they could get it. I'm not sure. I can't even remember exactly what he said. I feel like
if the U.S. military had to report weapons missing, they would probably like weapons that like disappeared from their possession. They would probably knock that number down as low as possible.
I see. He took half of each of these guns.
Because in what world would you want the government to be like, hey, look, we just kind of lost some cash.
This guy was asleep, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 11,000. 250 points for
Paul.
Bigfoot. I put an X there because I'm getting pretty used to that for you guys. So we've got 1250 to 1500. We're right in it. So he's arrested right after this and began the process of being dishonorably discharged after less than a year for stealing the weapons. Though he's sentenced to 14 years, he escaped custody and spent several days in the Hawaiian jungle. He would make his way to California somehow and get in touch with Mark Novak, who gave him the information for Tom Myers or Leonard Lake. Ing was now AWOL, but able to reach Lake even though he had moved by now. Question number 12. For what reason had Leonard moved? Was it A, that Cricket left him? B, a fire and explosion took place at his home? C, he was weirding everyone out, so they just kind of fucking asked him to leave? Or D, he just moved. He didn't have a reason.
I'd ask to kick him out if I were them.
Yeah.
Especially if you won't let me in the bunker during a time of need.
Okay, Paul says fire explosion. Casey says that he was weirding everybody out, so they asked him to leave. It was an explosion. He had a weapons cache, and I can't remember exactly what happened, but a fire broke out in that room or area and caused quite an explosion and fire in Venus's home that he had purchased prior on the 5,000-acre community of the ranch, and that was it. He's fucking out of there. Paul's got 2. You know what we should have done? Is given Paul half points for
too late.
every correct answer.
Too late. We're already into it. That would have been a great
we
idea.
can start doing that now, though.
Nope.
That would have been a great idea, he said.
It really would have, though.
Yeah. I mean, he'd be beating you pretty hard, though. So,
Real hard.
Yeah, it's okay. I like it.
oh. So he makes his way to California where he would meet Leonard Lake, though some sources say that they met when Lake posted an ad in a Survivalist magazine and not through Mark Novak. This cannot be confirmed. After meeting Lake, they seemed to take a quick liking to one another, and Ing moved in either near or it's unclear if he moved in with him for a while, then got his own apartment, or if he just got his own apartment at this point. But I think that he lived there for a bit before getting on his feet. Cricket and Leonard married on September 13th, 1981, and moved in together. Charles Gunner was Leonard Lake's best man for the ceremony, so Fat Charles held it down and was there. Lake would star in S&M and bondage-related amateur porn movies and also made Cricket take part in them. So he's like, they've graduated from the photography into the videography. Some believe that it was actually Cricket's idea to be in the films. A lot of the films that they will put together will match in details to some of the crimes that Leonard is going to be suspected of at some point. Now that Ing and Lake are together, they are starting to share ideas and find common grounds and interests. The trio would move to Indian Creek, California, and they'd all become fairly close. Ing was technically brought on as an assistant or helper, but I think to him, he now had a father figure to whom he could look up to in Lake. So he's got he's been abused and shit on by his dad his whole life. And he's got this guy who's 20 years older than him, kind of putting him under his wing. He's got very similar interests. They're into survival and, weird shit. And that's great. He's got a father figure, but unfortunately, he probably found one of the worst possible father figures that he could have, especially for the ideas he's already got in his head. This guy's going to do nothing to douse the flames. Although the crew was close, they were also pompous, and Ing would be caught. Question number 13, how would they be caught? Would someone recognize Charles? He's AWOL, remember. Would Leonard turn them in for the reward? Turn Charles in for the reward. Charles bragged to someone in Indian Creek, or he was tracked there by the military. So they're all living there. How's Ing get caught up?
Can you imagine be like, hey, I know you. Nope.
No, you definitely don't.
But I know, nope. That's how I imagine it going. That's what I would do. It would work. I'd get away.
Someone recognized him, turned him in.
Stop it.
They both say C. They both score 250 points to the each of you because yes, indeed, he's just out bragging yeah, I'm AWOL. We're out here doing some criminal shit. So catch me, whenever you can, if you can. And the military's like, yo, we're standing behind you. And he's like, fuck.
Ooh.
So, Ing bragging to the wrong person. They come around. As he was AWOL and had stolen weapons, his home was searched. And at this time, that of Leonard Lake's and Cricket's. When the property is searched, they find Leonard's weapon cache that he had been storing a new one, the one that is not exploding or blowing up yet. They find that, and remember, you guys, he's a badass survivalist, so most of the weapons have been obtained illegally and were illegally modified. So, this was not okay for either of them, as one was a fugitive who was AWOL, the other was harboring that said fugitive. At this time, the entirety of it all becomes too much for Cricket, and she divorces Leonard. Ing is taken to Hawaii and served with court-martial, and Lake would skip bail and at this time become a fugitive for the first time in his life, and he's going to stay that way. Ing will be placed into prison and be served his dishonorable discharge papers. He will spend 14 months in Fort Leavenworth Federal Prison, and he is doing He'll spend 14 months in Fort Leavenworth Federal Prison. While he is doing that, Lake realized that he was going to need a new identity. He was not able to rent a place on his own with his identity as a new fugitive, and reached out to his newly divorced wife, who was able to set him up with a cabin that her family owned. Although they were divorced, Cricket would never stop serving Leonard until she positively couldn't anymore. In the new cabin that was supplied by Cricket, located in Wilseyville, California, about 3 hours east of San Francisco, north of Sonora near the Stanislaus National Forest. Once he arrived here, it wouldn't be long before his brother goes missing, and Leonard has assumed his identity as Donald Lake. Other than killing his brother, he would keep the cabin quite busy, always doing his best to lure women to the cabin and attempt to, at the very least, allow him to photograph them. He would often get willing participants to come to do torture play with him and Cricket. She was still around. She's still kind of like, all right, we're not married, but like, I like the videos still. Like, I kind of like being a part of that.
I like how you said lure.
Yeah, well,
Hey,
that's what he was
You
doing.
want to come to my cabin? Make some sketchy videos.
There was a nearby neighbor.
Yes.
Here we go. This question for Paul is only worth half. I feel like this is one that's going to stand out. And this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to look at the question and realize if it's one that I think you might have held on to. And on those questions, you're only going to get the opportunity for half points. That is happening from now on. It's not going to be on all of them. You have a lot of questions. This is one of them. So
Seems unfair.
He's
There was
trying to balance the white privilege that's going on here.
that's exactly it. There was a nearby neighbor who had a dog that had sex and likely impregnated Leonard's dog. As a punishment for this, question number 14, what did Leonard do about it? Did he A, kill the dog, B, fight the neighbor, C, kill the neighbor, or D, take their dog to the pound?
I can see why you would think I'd remember this one.
But you don't. Well, I can't ask you, so.
I mean, you could.
No, how would that work? Hey, look at this question, Paul. Do you feel like you know this one, or?
Yeah, are the answers next to the question?
Yes.
Perfect.
Perfect. I don't know that one.
The highlighted answer is the one? Oh, weird.
Okay, Bigfoot says kill the dog. Paul says fight the neighbor. First thing Leonard could think to do was kill the neighbor's dog. That's 250 points for Bigfoot. So you
Now
didn't
those
get,
I remember.
puppies are going to grow up without
listen,
a father.
This is where I started
feel
hating
good when
the
you
guy.
miss these ones because you would have got gypped anyway. You know what I'm saying? And you were wrong. So
I do remember this is when I started not liking this guy.
yeah, because
At this point.
the first thing he did was kill the dog. Paul's pretty into what he was into up to this point. Remember, don't kink shame.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So Leonard killed the dog. Well, when the dog's owner came over to confront Leonard about it, Leonard somehow used the charm that people talk about. Because when we see him later, he does not look very charming. But that's just something that people say about some serial killers. There's a charm and allure that you can't explain, but is there. Is this a question at hand?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where's the unicorn at?
That Greg sent me.
No, not the picture. Like, where is it still around?
Oh, I think Sir Lancelot was still owned by Otter. And when he left the ranch, access to Sir Lancelot had.
He
been,
went to
removed.
Barnum and Bailey's circus. he really did. In the 80s, he was
Nice.
in Barnum and Bailey's circus. Sir
Otter or
Lancelot.
the goat?
The goat. The unicorn, sorry.
Can we create a time machine so I can go back and see it? Hey, that time machine you've already
So
you've already
theoretically,
created,
Paul,
can I
you
borrow?
can't travel back in time.
Well,
Only forward.
Let's talk about it, Greg.
we'll talk about it later.
All right, this
Yeah.
sounds
There's a
this sounds
different
like
show for
a
that.
this sounds like a video game.
So he's
conversation.
he's confronted by the neighbor and wins over the neighbor somehow. Not only does he win over the neighbor, he also shoots the neighbor a, hey man, you into homemade porno? Or and the neighbor's like, yeah, actually.
Why, you got any?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's your dead dog.
So
P.S.
he finds the neighbor. They're going to exchange homemade pornography from time to time. Lake decided that, what a weird thing, with your neighbor, you see his wife, hey Linda, you're yeah, hey Linda,
Hey, Linda. Looking good today.
and she's
Hey,
just like,
Miss Parker.
and she's just like, hey Leonard, and she turns to her friend and she goes, it's like this big.
He did the little penis thing.
Why
with
does
his
your
hands,
wife
guys.
always wave to me with her pinky?
So
She's fancy, man.
when Leonard gets the new identity of Donald Lake, he decides to go into San Francisco and get a room at the Pink Palace, which is known for a place where some pretty shitty behavior took place in the early 1980s. Lake would get a room under the fake name Alan Dre. During his short stay at the Pink Palace, he took care of some business he felt necessary, or ops, to get his next business venture started. He would first kill a man and fellow survivalist Randy Jacobson. It is almost certain that Randy was killed for his disability checks, in which Leonard would use one of his many identities to have cashed. He would also kill a couple, Maurice Rock and Cheryl Okoro. Unclear how he knew them, but it's believed that he invited the couple to make it seem like a safe situation. Once with them, Maurice was likely killed first and immediately. Some believe that Cheryl may have been a proto-M girl, as later down the road, a photo of her in handcuffs in a room would turn up. They would find Maurice's full body just outside San Francisco only 2 days later, and would never find a body for Randy or Cheryl. Later, in some of the homemade pornography that was uncovered in Lake's home, Cricket would portray Cheryl in what may have been pornographic reenactment of Lake's actions that night. All the time he was spending in San Fran had began a very detailed journal. From some of the things that he mentions are the collector, his possible M-ladies, and how much he missed Cricket. In the journal, he mentions his desire to kill Charles Gunner for his identity, and he felt people may be getting too close to finding Donald's identity that he was currently using. You're using your fucking brother's identity. If you're on the run from the law,
journal of that.
Because he's a fucking narcissist. He needs this. Like,
I guess, but like I never understood why like these people would be like, oh yes, and we found the like why would you write a manifesto?
dude,
What an asshole.
BTK had been like free for 20 years and then hits up the cops and goes, yo, if I send you a floppy disk, can you track it? And they're like, no. And he's like, cool, I'll get one over this week. And did it, and they found him in like 2 days. Like a lot of these guys just they want
Floppy
to be
disks.
given credit for their crimes. You know, they want to be. They are on missions. I mean, they're on ops.
Nice.
Thank you. So it was early March, let's call it March 1st, when he decided that he would kill what was once known as his only friend. As he was known to call his day operations or ops, he gave this one the code name Operation Fish. Question number 15 from March 1st. How many days would he wait before he finally kills Charles Gunner? How many days? How many days was it? How many days did he wait, motherfucker? How many days did he wait?
Does he go fishing?
When you first said it, it sounded very Johnny Carson of you. How many days?
Really big shoe. Bigfoot says 17 days. Paul says that he did it just 3 days later. Well, he's going to kill Fat Charles April 24th, 1983, 54 days after he had written in his diary that he had planned to do it. That is 250 points for Bigfoot, who's nailed the last 3 questions in a row.
I feel like this is where the vodka kicked in last time.
So
about here.
Bigfoot is at 1750. Paul is at 2000.
Oh, good.
Hey,
Good.
this is just we're right in this thing, guys. Oh wait, I'm sorry. It is 2000 and 2000.
Oh.
I missed some points up at the top for Bigfoot there. I'm just gonna do this now to help keep track. So 2000 to 2000, just about halfway through. We're more than halfway through the outline. The questions start to come a little more rapid fire at the end. Don't worry, guys. I know it's 10 o'clock. Greg's got quite a subject for you, too. We're about to get to a second break. We'll stretch our legs out. Are you good? You guys good on time?
Good.
Everybody feeling good? You guys want to stay the night?
I'm good.
Sleep over! Don't make it weird.
Oh,
I think I've almost
keep you
done
on
that
the TV.
before.
We gonna make a fort, motherfucker!
You got boxes?
So, Fat Charles. So he decided to kill him 54 days later. Fat Charles, it should be said, was not an amazing dude himself. He was a beater of his wife and children, pretty much seriously an asshole, would disappear for stretches of time. So when he went missing this time, it wasn't that surprising to him, to his wife. However, Leonard went ahead and told her that Charles had left her for another woman and that he was sorry to hear about what he had done. Later, when Charles' body is discovered, it shows signs of being shot by 2 different types of guns from 2 different angles, leaving many to believe that perhaps since Ng was in prison, that Cricket had helped with the perpetration of the murder of Fat Charles. Speaking of Charles Ng and prison, he seems to adjust to prison life very nicely. So some people just adapt, man. Charles Ng, he's one of those people.
They grab that pocket early.
Every now and again, he'll get a care package from his boy Leonard Lake, Tom Myers, Alan Dre, Donald Lake, Charles Gunner. These care packages would contain nudity, some store-bought, others homemade, and even of cricket.
Most of it
sometimes.
of Leonard Lake himself.
Like, dude, check
Doing the
out my
tuck.
balls these days. Ng told most of his fellow inmates and even some of the guards that he plans to one day have a paramilitary group that would steal missiles and shoot passenger planes out of the sky. As well as
Hell
these
yeah.
things, he even got some of his... Why did I know Casey was going
That's
to
some
say
GTA
something?
5 shit.
As well as these things, he said he got some inmates feeling a little queasy with some of his graphic descriptions of violence towards women that he planned to commit and had already committed. After Ng's sentence was up, he would get to reunite with Lake, even though he wasn't technically an American citizen and likely would have been deported. The false birth certificate given at his time of the entry into the military had given him a way to stay in the United States after his life in prison was served. So while it was a meaningless thing that he did going into the Marines, it ends up leading.
It's the long con.
Yeah.
So is this like a really good fake? Clearly, or did they just not
Whatever
like,
it
double check
was.
They,
What-
just-
I
they
mean,
were
like-
like, "Oh shit, the military okayed it. It's probably fine."
No, he's being charged for a military crime. He was being charged by the military. He was court-martialed. This was all. I mean, he was charged. Military police took him in. He stole from a military cache. So they were the ones who were like, "Oh, okay, so he's done. We can, he's an American citizen though." Like they put the information, and the information that was disseminated was that he's from Indiana or born in Indiana.
They fucked up a little bit.
Okay, we're getting close to a break here. Okay, so after Ng's sentence was up, he's going to reunite with Lake, the Indiana thing. It was said that within about just a week of Ng and Lake being back together, Leonard Lake's going to stop updating the journal with any regularity. So that's kind of big.
Too busy driving around listening to Thin Lizzy. The boys are back in town.
I still imagine him in
Hey,
like
there's
a
nothing
creepy
wrong
van.
with that. Yeah.
I know what I'm listening to on the way home.
Charles Ng in the passenger seat going, "You're my best friend."
He's got his
Fucking
hand on his
love
shoulder like
you.
this. Okay, so let's take a break here. Let's cleanse ourselves of this so we can go into what Greg's going to cover. So it's still a
bloody hell.
mystery to Bigfoot. Let's take it that way. Let's take 10 here, Greg. It's
10. Hell, I'll take 11.
yeah, do it. So come back, everybody, or we'll kill you again.
Second death.
Hi, I'm Lindsay,
And I'm Bree.
and together we are Death & Co. Podcast.
Lindsay, what's keeping you alive this week?
Probably the warm sunshine that kisses me awake each morning. It makes me feel like Snow White. What about you, Bree?
I think my psychiatrist telling me that it's not just me and people really are made up of garbage.
Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Death & Co. Podcast.
And download and subscribe today on your favorite podcast platforms. Bye.
Is that how you expected that to go? Nope.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 100
Sure.
No, it's 1,000.
of 1 million of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am Hella Greg. I am in my bunker. I have a very specific outline pulled up for this. I don't normally. Well, I mean, I do. I research, but I don't normally spend this much time researching. I spent probably like a month putting information together. Like, not a complete month, but like some time over the course of a month putting this information together. And I want to start by defining a couple of things. I want to define the word fake. Means it's not real. It didn't happen. And also hoax, which means it happened, but it happened under false pretenses, meaning it happened, but not for the reason you think that it happened. That being said, when people say 9/11 was faked, that's stupid. Clearly, a lot of people died. Something bad happened. There were explosions, buildings fell, people died. 9/11 wasn't fake. But like, it could be a hoax where it's a false flag. Gulf of Tonkin is a great example. We were attacked in Vietnam by a patrol boat when we were got a little too close, and the next day we were like, oh, it happened again, and we used it as justification to like go further into Vietnam, but like it never really happened again. And even the guys on the boat were like, oh yeah, that was our bad, it was just foggy and we thought, but nothing really happened. And they were like, oh, too late, we're already like, we're already doing it. So
We're already warring.
yeah, I mean, come on, we've already made moves. They're like, it's been 12 hours. They're like, yeah,
We gotta have our
Yeah.
finger on the trigger anyway. You guys, thank you for that, what you did.
yeah. Operation Northwoods is another good example of a hoax or a false flag.
Sorry.
The CIA was going to fake a terrorist attack in Florida and blame it on anti-capitalist Cubans. The response was going to be to invade Cuba and cause an all-out war just off our own coast. And JFK was like, no. And not only no, but he fired the dude who proposed it, the head of the CIA. So the whole point of that would be to drive us into war so the larger companies could profit. Like Coke was using Colombian slave labor and Cuban slave labor to keep prices down, and Castro wanted to charge Coke a market price for that would have eaten into their profits, and they were like, fuck that. He also cut back the acres of drilling that were to take place from almost 50% of Cuba to a small area, less than 20% of what they were originally asking for. And that pissed a lot of people off, so they formed little hit squads and sent him after Castro. He was just kind of looking out for his people, and the CIA were looking out for big business, and so the two of them were, in a Cold War.
No way, dude. America looking out for big business?
Yeah, the math doesn't normally
Makes no
track
sense
like
to me.
that,
No way she'll say.
but I digress. These major factors, should you find yourself discussing any of this shit with anybody, and they're like, 9/11 was faked, you're like, well, no, head ass, it was a hoax. Like, and that being said, let's get into 9/11.
Do we have to?
Like, guess not. I mean, I can take my ball and go home.
No, bring your ball back.
It's a red ball.
So we all saw what happened on 9/11. We all remember watching planes hit the buildings, and I don't know, we're all pretty young. Like,
Of
I don't know
course
if
we all
anyone-
remember because #never forget.
Yeah, but how old were you when it happened?
We would have been all freshmen.
I'm
we
a
were
year
freshmen.
ahead
You
of
were
you.
8th grade.
Yeah.
Casey was sophomore.
Yeah, so we were all fairly young. I don't know if we all grasped the gravity of the situation at the time, especially being on the opposite side of the country from it.
Yeah, because we woke up to the news, most of us.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
I woke up and my mom told me about it, and I watched it, and I was like, this looks like an incredible movie. And my mom's like, no, this is actually happening. And I was like, oh, shit. That's
Even better.
Wow.
Eh. So some of the major players in 9/11, one of them being Dick Cheney. He is a graduate of Yale. He was a member of the Skull and Bones Society, which is a Yale secret society that also had members like Prescott Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, and George W. Bush. Also, John Kerry, who ran against George W. in 2004 but lost. Those guys were all members of the Skull and Bones. Also, the guy who created football, founded football. God, I can't remember his name.
Jim and Jeffrey football.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was like the founder of American football. He was a Skull and Bones member, and God damn it, I fucking suck for not remembering it. But anyway, Cheney was vice president under George W. Bush, who was also a Skull and Bones member, like we talked about. He was the Secretary of Defense from 1989 to 1993 under George Herbert Walker Bush, who was also a Skull and Bones member, like we talked about. From 1995 to 2000, he served as the chairman and CEO, chairman of the board and CEO of question number 16.
Ooh.
What was the company that Dick Cheney worked for? Was it A, DuPont, B, Lockheed Martin, C, Halliburton, or D, Exxon?
Probably one of them.
Likely.
Maybe.
We can agree with that.
Likely.
Yes, but which one?
Oh, you're asking too much. I
What do
say A.
you can just
I
tell
said,
me.
I said
can't.
C.
You said C. Halliburton.
I said A.
DuPont. It is C. Halliburton.
This is definitely before the vodka kicked in. Before this.
Well, he changed his question. I asked him to change his question.
Oh, good.
Sorry, I missed that because I was calculating. Casey got it right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Bigfoot is on sort of a roll here. So we've got Bigfoot at 2,500, Paul at 2,000.
This is rigged.
14 questions to go.
I mean, a little bit.
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, but it should be the other way. 14 questions to go. You're right, it is a rigged, but you're fucking it up real bad.
Paul's gonna lose.
You're not cheating right, Paul.
Paul's gonna lose in round 2 of this fucking game.
Plenty of time, dudes.
I quit.
All right, Greg, take it away.
Yeah, so Dick Cheney was the chairman of the board and the CEO of Halliburton. Halliburton is an oil field services and equipment company, according to their Wikipedia. It's been mired in controversy, including paying over $1 billion to litigants after being involved in the war in Iraq. This also includes they have locations in Venezuela, which is weird. There hasn't been any weird political uprisings in Venezuela lately.
Nope.
Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Pakistan, and there's a lot more. But they were also involved in a lawsuit as they acquired Dresser Industries, and they were criticized over the way they managed their financials during there was like a lack of transparency, and they were fronting some numbers. Before Cheney became VP, his worth was estimated somewhere between $19 million and $86 million, which, I mean, that's a big window.
Yep.
But the current vice president, like right now, what's his name? Fuck, I can't think of it.
I'm going to let you sit with that then.
No.
Pence?
Mike
what's
Pence.
his name?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
The guy that can shock the gay away?
yes, thank you. Straight Camp Mike.
I feel like that was one of his running platforms.
He makes $244,000 a year as vice president. So, Cheney left a multi-million-dollar gig for a $244,000 a year public service job.
Sounds fishy.
When he retired from Halliburton, he got approximately $34 million, but according to PolitiFact, his salary was like a little over $4 million. He gave up like a $4.7 million annual salary for less than a quarter of $1,000,000 salary.
He wanted to help the people.
Yeah, that's what he wanted.
Probably.
Yeah, and I've got all the information right here, but the stuff that like really sticks out, because I don't want to bore you with the numbers, but his restricted stock input was a little over $7.5 million, and his non-qualified stock option income was just under $22 million.
So he's like, it's almost like no matter how you look at it, or if you look at the high or low range of what you were saying his pay is, like he was making exponentially more money doing this than being a VP or whatever. Even
he had almost $30 million in stock in Halliburton as his retirement package.
So he got to keep that as VP. Like he's still chilling on all that.
Yeah, because it's just stock. I mean, it's like buying it in the stock market. They just said, Here, this is part of your retirement package. Here's $30 million worth of stock of this company. We make money, you make money. So, I mean, it doesn't prove that Cheney did anything, really, but he stood to make a fucking ton of money should Halliburton get a drilling contract in the Middle East after they have some sort of political uprising akin to Operation Northwoods, where they want to sell oil at a market price, and the U.S. is like, whoa, that's bad business for us. So, no. In fact, we're going to come in and destabilize your government and then do what we want. So that was a thing. Looking at Halliburton stock in August of 2001, they were at 13.3 points. I don't know what the fuck that means, but that didn't seem very high compared to where they were at just over 71 points in June of 2014. So,
ballin'.
Yeah, I mean,
Bowling!
bunch of money was made right there by somebody. And
Dick Cheney is somebody, right?
he's more like a void of a person. It's like what happens when you remove a soul from a soul and you're just left with like a husk.
Like Bart when he couldn't laugh at anything.
Yeah. Dick Cheney's the absence of laughter. That's pretty much it. Also, there was some missing money on September 10th, 2001. Donald Rumsfeld held a press conference where he mentioned the Pentagon missing roughly $2.3 trillion, which is fucking wild because that's like more than 3 times their annual budget.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a huge amount of money, and they couldn't account for it, which means a couple of things. It either means the Pentagon's that bad at bookkeeping that it lost financial records for over $2 trillion. For like, and just for perspective on that, if you're off by a couple $100 on your taxes, you're hit with a fuck ton of fines. And these guys lost over $2 trillion, and like, yeah, our bad. Like,
just wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure in a couple days this whole thing will blow over. You guys won't even forget it. Like, you guys won't even remember. Also, it means that they spent that money and have no record of where it went, which means it could have gone to fund the military or Department of Homeland Security or something like that. It could have been used to fund the CIA while they overthrew governments all around the world, like in the Middle East, trying to destabilize governments, drilling oil. It also could have been used to outfit like the National Security Agency with the sort of technology required to spy on U.S. citizens in large scale, in anticipation of something like the Patriot Act being pushed through in the wake of 9/11.
Don't even mention it.
What?
Just the Patriot Act.
Fuck the Patriot Act.
Amen.
You're making him sick to his stomach.
I
over
am
here.
sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
I'm cleaning dog crap off the carpet.
Runny dog crap.
So yeah, I mean, like, honestly, as I was doing all this, that kind of clicked for me. As I was researching everything, that part right there clicked for me. I was like, holy shit. So they were missing $2.3 trillion. The next day, nobody remembers the missing $2.3 trillion, but we were hit with what is called the largest terrorist attack of ever
on U.S. soil.
U.S. soil or whatever. Like, I mean, so it's a huge deal. Nobody's thinking about the missing money anymore. But then you get the Patriot Act, where all of a sudden National Security Agency can spy on anybody again in large scale, where they can. It may be an algorithm, but they're listening to the phone conversations and the text messages and the Facebook and Instagram posts, and they're looking for certain keywords. And when you hit that keyword, yeah, it might trigger a second look from a human being. So it's not somebody who's literally sitting there listening to your phone conversation being like, this fucking asshole right here, I can't believe he's jerking off again. Like, at least have the decency to put some tape over your fucking webcam. This guy's an animal. But like that's not what's really happening. But if you say dumb shit like certain keywords, then the little algorithm's gonna be like, hey, wait a second.
Maybe take a second look at this guy.
Yeah, and then
like, attention all foreign countries.
He's
If
used
you
the
haven't
word-
noticed since Pearl Harbor and 9/11, the U.S.'s weakness is airplanes.
right. Now, see, that right there gets us put on a list. Not necessarily anybody listening unless they start humming that song that plays in the background of all the ISIS videos.
It can be catchy sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I can only watch like 2 or 3 of those videos, otherwise it gets stuck in my head. But yeah, so like all that, like that clicked for me. All the missing money and then funding this agency all of a sudden, like outfitting them to be able to do shit like that. It was like I was like, holy shit, that could be where the money went, because you would need a fuck ton of money right up front to outfit an agency like that all of a sudden with the Patriot Act being pushed through. Just something that I thought was weird. Also, some strange information regarding the Pentagon. A Boeing 757 hit the side of it, which is wild because if you look at the damage, it fucking didn't. And that's the end of that.
It looks more like a school bus hit it or something.
Yeah. So it allegedly, and I can't find
Allegedly.
anything that proves this part right here, but allegedly it hit the same department that was under investigation for the missing $2.3 trillion. But that just I don't necessarily buy that.
That feels like information that came a few years later, like down, you know what I mean, like that someone
Right.
just put on the story, because like even if
Like piling on.
they were like, okay, we gotta fucking bomb this shit, we gotta get, like, who was so accurate with whatever they fired into that, besides it being a cruise missile, like, some of the stories say, like if it were an airplane, nobody was flying it. Like, listen, you need to fly it directly into my department, okay? Like, that's where it's got to be, man.
I'll stand in the window.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it with a casino.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's I mean the allegedly the move that the pilot made was fucking wildly accurate. I mean, it was like a 145-degree bank turn, like coming down, came in at street level and clipped telephone poles or street lights on his way in, bounced once off the lawn and bam into the side of the building.
I want to see the video.
Yeah.
We all do.
So a Boeing 757 is 155 feet long, 44 feet high, and 124 feet wide, and weighs almost 100 tons. The hole that was left in the Pentagon was approximately 75 feet across, according to the ASCE Pentagon Building Report. So that math checks out.
Which, like, could make sense if, okay, so let's say part of the wings were sheared off when he had hit those telephone poles. We have the tips of the wings down the street. But there's nothing. It was all obliterated when it hit the building, right?
Only pieces of the plane that were left on the quote-unquote plane that were left were big enough to be, or were small enough to be picked up by hand by men in suits, which is what happened. You can just Google Pentagon 9/11 debris or some shit like that, and you'll see pictures of dudes in suits just picking up small pieces of plane, quote-unquote plane. So according, even the hole in the building, it looked a lot smaller than 75 feet, man. It looked like 16, 20 feet, maybe. It was just not very big.
What's your best theory then?
Cruise missile,
missile.
buster little missiles? Like, I mean, fuck, RPG from across the street. Like, I mean, technology from Area 51 we don't know about. I mean, it could be
For like a month.
Bob Lazar knows about it.
But what I'm saying is, like, it could be any number of things that, because we'll never know. We will never know. They have, a bunch of cameras along the face of the Pentagon, but there's no security footage of that happening. All those cameras were down for maintenance because apparently the part of the Pentagon was under construction. Well, okay, but like, you're telling me that whole side of the building was just down. All the buildings around the area, all the gas stations, all the banks, everything in town that may have been facing in that general direction, who might have caught a plane flying super low to the ground, headed in that general direction, just didn't catch anything at all. And I think that's kind of fucking weird. The only thing we got was like 5 frames of footage, and they were blurry at best, and it doesn't show anything at all that looks like a plane.
I've never been able to blow O's in my life, and I'm just cranking them out like a monster right now.
I saw you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So according to the same report, the reason you don't see any damage to the building from the wings is because one of them sheared off when it made contact with a structural support on the Pentagon, and the other wing hit the ground. So again,
So like similar to what I said, but like those pieces don't exist.
It hit the well, they're saying it hit the structural support and basically like left the wings on the outside, and the actual body of the plane went through. And so there should have been 2 wings on the outside. There wasn't. There should have been a massive gouge in the lawn where the plane bounced. and then the wing hit the ground and put I'm sure a pretty good sized tear in a nice green lawn.
Well, like you said, what was it, 100 tons?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100 tons moving at a good enough speed to make it fly.
Yeah.
And so, oh man, all right. So this whole thing's stupid. It's like showing up to a murder and they've clearly been stabbed to death, and the coroner's like, yeah, man, it was a car accident. This
Close.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. And there's not even any evidence of a plane. Like we said, the small pieces of the wreckage. You can pick them up by hand. The Pentagon cameras, we talked about that. The side that struck was at least it penetrated like 3 layers. But the Pentagon has 5 layers. So it didn't make it all the way through, but yeah, it was.
It didn't make it to the Taco Bell in the middle.
Right.
Taco Bell.
The pilot who allegedly flew the plane was reportedly a terrible flight student who couldn't control a Cessna.
Yeah, he like graduated last in his class or some shit.
Yeah, and he executed an insanely difficult turn over 130 degrees in a Boeing 757 and brought it in at full speed at ground level perfectly into the side of the Pentagon. Not the top, with a larger target area and the potential for more casualties. He hit ground level and into the side. He was not only was he able to pull off this move, but he was able to maintain enough speed to vaporize the plane, the passengers, the luggage, and even the engines of the plane on impact, but only move through 2 full walls of the Pentagon, when literally less than 2 hours before, the same type of plane hit both World Trade Centers and almost exited the other side. So what really fucking pisses me off, the same thing with the first 2 World Trade Centers, is that the engines are gone. Okay, I will say, hypothetically, jet fuel melts steel beams. It doesn't. Hypothetically, it does. Why would it burn up the engine, the very thing that it's supposed to fucking power? That doesn't make any sense. It should not be. Those things should fucking exist. There should have been giant V12 Rolls-Royce engines in this wreckage that could have been found. But there fucking wasn't.
They melted.
How?
I'm kidding, dude.
I know, but how? Like that. Everything was vaporized. All the people, all the luggage, the little black box.
Vaporized. That's how they got rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone. There was no evidence of anything. It's gone.
It's because they vaporized it.
Yeah. Also,
where's the
Building
poo
7,
go?
a bunch of more shit. Building 7 it came down after it was hit by a plane, and actually, no, it wasn't. It wasn't hit by anything. Building 7 just fell on its own.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
It tripped walking over to check on the other 2 buildings. It was hit with debris from the first 2 towers collapsing and caught fire somehow on like 10 floors. And the sprinkler system was disabled due to a break in the water main because of the collapse of the first 2 towers. And the fires were on the lower floors. They were allowed to burn for approximately 7 hours. And the heat from the fires caused the floor beams to expand, causing failures throughout the building, which is weird because a localized fire caused failures throughout the entire building. And then according to their simulation, column 79 buckled, and the building comes down after that.
Right.
I personally, I'm a little skeptical, but I'm sure that's happened before, right? Like if it happened that way, a localized fire caused a steel high-rise to collapse after one
Collapse in on itself.
right. That would make sense if it happened before. This is the first instance of fire-induced progressive collapse. That wasn't even a thing until this happened. So, but
That's why they bring in like demolitions experts to load hundreds of pounds of explosives. They don't like light a fire at the bottom and go like, this building will
That'll
pitter
work.
itself out tonight.
Yeah. We'll come back in the morning.
We'll just pour some jet fuel down here and light it. It'll work.
It'll be
Yeah,
gone.
that ought to do it. No, that's too easy. What are we gonna do? Let's just get some planes. I've got an idea.
Do you think we should melt the beams at the bottom so everything falls in on itself? Nah, you know what? Go for the top. Go towards the top of it.
It's like a candle.
It did hit some buildings around it. Like there's a Verizon building that took like $100,000 worth of damage, or maybe more. And then there was a college, like part of NYU, like an annex for NYU out there, and it was hit and it had to be torn down because of the damage.
Do you think the people that run those buildings are like, man, I really want people to be bummed for us too, but like,
yeah, but how do you speak up?
yeah.
Shout out to those
Something
silent
bigger
people
fell.
who got to struggle quietly. You know, here's your platform.
Call into the serial chillers.
805-666-2513.
That one.
Holla.
So yeah, the fires had to be hot to weaken the steel supports, right? So it begins to weaken around 450 degrees Celsius and loses its half strength around 650 degrees Celsius. According to FEMA, generally high-rise fires burn about 593 degrees Celsius or 1100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not hot enough to destroy metals or earthly made substances.
So what about the paper heating theory? Like the amount of paper in the building due to it being like a pre-true digital age added to the heat of the fire.
Yeah, but all these buildings are so old that they're all asbestos lined. You know what I mean? And that's like straight up fire retardant.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Right, but I mean, wasn't it like a single center column? Isn't that how these buildings were?
Column 79 buckled because it got too hot. So,
Paper, man.
yeah. So according to them, the fire weakened the floor compromised the column gave way, and the roof buckled. You can see a few windows blow out, and then the whole thing comes almost straight down. A lot of people say it looks like a controlled demolition, and I agree, like a sloppily done controlled demolition, because it did hit other buildings around it. And here's why I think it was a sloppily done controlled demolition. A controlled demolition would bring the building down in its own footprint. A falling building would damage surrounding area, but by not coming straight down, like we talked about. Building 7 buckled across the roof and came almost straight down. If you wanted to demolish a building and make it look like it collapsed, you wouldn't bring it straight down in on itself. That would be too obvious. But if it fell and damaged the Verizon building and, that NYU annex, it would look like more like a building collapse. So maybe they were like, okay, find me the best demolition guy you know. And the demolition guy comes in and they're like, who's the worst demolition guy you know?
Or can you be the worst demolition guy we know?
No, you want to get the worst, because afterwards you probably have to kill somebody after they did something like that. Like we're bringing down building 7, and then you just kill them and leave them in the basement, and then oh shit, they were casualties of the collapse.
Yeah.
But because you wouldn't want somebody walking around out there being like, oh yeah, fucking me and Marty, yeah, we were out there putting demolition in the bottom we were putting fucking dynamite in these things. It was thermite. We were cutting beams. Oh fuck, building 7, that thing. What do you mean people are still in there? Like,
That's a great accent, though.
Thanks. I don't know what it is.
I'm guessing New York.
It's the first time I've ever done it.
Did well. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you.
There's also some insurance information, like Larry Silverstein, the owner of the World Trade Center buildings, as all good businessmen do, insured his investment to the tune of approximately $7 billion. From my limited research, it looks like each tower, 1 and 2. There were allegedly problems with the buildings. They were out of date, asbestos in them. The plumbing and wiring were not reported to be the best, and it would be expensive to tear down and rebuild or even to renovate the existing buildings. It's a lot less expensive if you let somebody in the government blow them up using a false flag operation to start a forever war for profit than use your insurance money to release the area and build a new building in the place that had 2 in it.
Just saying it, huh?
Seems like a bit of a reach, but
then he would have to know about it too, right?
Right, but
Shh. I mean,
when
you
you're
trust
worth that much, when
you
you're worth
trust a
that much money,
billionaire, but not the guy who blows it up. I mean,
yeah, when you're worth that much money, you know how to shut the fuck up. Also, there's a lot of plausible deniability and shit like this, where like There's a few people at the very, very top who know everything, but everybody else just needs to shut the fuck up and play their part, and nobody really even knows.
Yeah.
So it can't be traced back to like, what did you do? And you're just like, I just did what I was told. I fucking opened the gate and left.
Yeah, I drove this car from here to there.
Exactly. I did my job. I followed orders from my commanding officer. You have to take everything up with him. And then it goes up, and then eventually they get stonewalled. And nope, this is where it ends. Classified, top secret, shut the fuck up, get out. Keep asking questions, you get suicided. You hang yourself in your prison cell.
You get it?
You get shot in the head twice.
No.
Yeah. Or what was that one guy that shot himself in the chest 5 times? Suicided himself that way.
Gotta make sure you kill yourself if you're gonna shoot yourself in the chest.
United Flight 93 also happened. Don't want to forget those people. This one's really fucking weird. This is the flight that the passengers allegedly took control of and brought down in a field in Pennsylvania. There's recorded phone calls from passengers on this flight. Some of them left voicemails for their loved ones. I thought it was weird that there were recorded phone calls of this. Like, unless the FCC was able to be like, oh yeah, we can pull the airphone logs from that.
I think there are voicemails.
All of them? Because I could have sworn some of they were talking about. Well, I guess maybe it was just people recalling talking to him on the phone then. But and I'm not saying not saying it didn't happen. Just saying, keep an open mind. First with the wreckage, there was little to no wreckage of any kind. If you look up any photos of any plane crash, and you can see the cabin, everything, the wings, the engines, the seats, the luggage, and unfortunately, you can also see the bodies. In the photos of Flight 93, you don't see any of that. There's a large chunk of the tail and a scorched bit about the size of the plane without wings, and really nothing else other than that. And when I say nothing else, that includes a crater. I mean, if a jet that size fell from the sky, or like the story goes, was piloted down, it would make an impact crater, I would think. It hit dirt, not water, so it's not like it's going to fill back in on top of itself. There weren't any survivors, and that's to be expected. However, there wasn't any wreckage to look over. As for phone calls, they were allegedly placed from the airphone system. It's no longer in use, so it wouldn't be possible today. However, it was traceable, not only to the specific flight, but to the aisle and seat number.
I also think if it were over airphone, those may have just been recorded.
Yeah. I seem to remember in my limited travels as a Ute, I'm pretty sure you had to pay for these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had to get a credit card, right?
Sure.
Which means during somebody saying that they're taking over the flight, you're fumbling through your wallet to pull out a credit card.
Or it's just assigned to your seat and you're charged with your ticket. I think there's some shit like that, too.
Could be. Or they had free in-flight calling in 2001. But
who knows?
I know now you have to swipe a credit card. I don't remember where I was flying, but they had one. I was real confused.
Yeah,
on what was happening.
At the risk of sounding like a prick with this one, and I really fucking don't want to, if this whole thing was a hoax, it would serve to be a huge propaganda point. You know what I mean? Like, this is look at all the brave Americans who somehow had news of other planes being hijacked and crashed and took over control of the situation and died as a result. You know what I mean? Like, it's a heroic story. How many Flight 93 movies have there been? You know what I mean? Like, it's a good narrative to push. Like, these people took control of the situation. They took the terrorists down. They did this. They're heroes. Don't forget the heroes of Flight 93. And I'm not saying they're not heroes at all.
Man.
Yeah, that's pretty much that's aside from Towers 1 and 2, that's some of the outerlying stuff about 9/11 that stuck out, and I put a bunch of that shit together over the last month, and
Thanks,
thought I'd share it with you fellas. Yeah. Sorry.
That was fun. Anybody else excited?
Sorry.
No, I fully agree with Greg.
So there you go. I'll go. I plead the fifth. There are so many amendments to the Constitution of the United States. Which one do I pick? I plead the fifth. I I don't know. That's too crazy. That's too crazy to really pick one side on anything. It's very much like even in politics, like you agree with a politician, you may not agree with every single thing that they say, but you're like, all right. Well,
you shouldn't agree with every single thing that somebody says.
Right.
You should be able to think for yourself and be like, hey, wait a second.
With something like that, where it's not like, I mean, you could look at it as a whole and be like, it's a hoax. Okay. But then there's so many subsets of things happening. Like, so yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot that I question.
And the Dick Cheney thing is one of the things that I never really hear explored. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, Bush did 9/11. Well, actually, Cheney stood the most to gain from it.
Well, there you go. And if you guys want to know more, talk more about it, or listen more about it, there may be a little expanded universe to this in some Hella Conspiracies episodes coming up.
Yep.
So let's just do a little palate cleanser. We'll take a quick 5 here. We won't do a walk away. We'll turn the AC on here and take a quick second to, recoup from the memories of that day.
Just trying to recover from 9/11, guys.
Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll come back. We'll finish up with the Charles Ng Leonard Lake story. It hasn't even really popped off yet, so you know it's about to. Aw, yeah.
Hey guys, it's Lacey. I just wanted to let you know that I too wish I could file a restraining order against Getty. Keep up the good work.
Meows. Motherfucking happy 100 episodes. Oh, you're starting to piss me off, you little pigless son of a bitch. Call me.
Hey, man. Did anyone even call? You are one pathetic loser.
Hey, boys. Long time no speak. Just saw a sweet-ass rainbow, so I thought I'd call and tell you about it. Have a good one. Hail Satan.
I wonder how creepy I can be. And I wonder if you're going to be able to guess who this is. I'm not going to leave my name, though.
All by myself. Don't want to be all by myself.
Hey, my name is Brittany. I was just calling to tell you how much I love the show. And why is because the chemistry that you guys seem to have lots of fun, and I think that's important when you're talking about such dark kind of content,
Hey, how goes it, fella Greg and Jesse? It's Taylor from Texas. I wanted to call in and say congratulations on hitting your 100th episode, and in honor of doing so, here's a joke for you guys. What do you call Keanu Reeves? Damn it, I messed it up. What do Keanu Reeves and the Scranton Strangler have in common? They're both breathtaking. Nailed it. Keep doing it, guys.
Yo, what's up, Jesse and Greg? This is Scott Sanders all the way in Sellersburg, Indiana. I got y'all's number on a previous episode and just wanted to give you a shout out. Y'all are great. My sister's into criminal justice, and she let me know 2 weeks ago about y'all's show. And, man, it's so entertaining. I've been binge listening to it. I've been listening for a couple weeks. I'm already on episode 64. It's great. Y'all's banner is great. She told me I would like it because y'all remind her of me, which is funny, and I'm listening, and you really do. I really like your guests, Bigfoot and Mama Shy and your sister, Jessie. Those are my favorites. It's always entertaining and nice information gained.
Hi, I'm calling for Paul. Paul Sheldon. Yes, I know he's here. Paul Sheldon. What do you mean? I'm his #1 fan. Let me talk to Paul Sheldon.
Hey, man. It's me again. I was just taking a whiz. Thought you might have called. Okay, later.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to finish this story out. You've got 9/11. You've got the beginnings of Charles Ng and Leonard Lake. Might as well just bring it on home. 1983. Remember, Charles Ng and Lake have now been reunited after Charles has done his prison stint. Leonard Lake is living as a fugitive. A man named Albert Gialetti was killed, most likely by Charles Ng. He was a radio DJ in the San Francisco area and into certain things sexually. He was a homosexual man, but one of the things that he loved the most was to perform sexual acts on men who were straight. So it was just like his thing. He'd put a personal ad out like, yo, I'm a gay man, but if you're a straight man who's just looking to maybe check it out, I'm interested in what you got going on. And I don't
There's
know.
a hole in this bathroom stall.
I don't know what the response rate was like on that, but Charles Ng and Leonard Lake saw it and were like, oh, we're going to kill that homosexual.
I've heard that's a thing, though. I knew a bi chick that very much enjoyed trying to turn straight women.
Anyway, let's get back on track here. So, Ng and Lake saw the ad and answered right away. It is believed that although they were in this together, Ng committed this crime alone. The dudes on last podcast think that it was like an initiation killing. So I don't know that I didn't find any sources with that, but I did listen to last podcast as a source, and that's what they posed was that, like, you know, Leonard's been hanging around making his fucking plans. He's a fugitive on the run. Charles gets out of prison. He's like, "Are you still down?" "Oh, you are? Look, I found this homosexual's ad, and I want you to go murder him." And, you know, and that sounds very plausible. I mean, there's like all the myths, you know, the classic, like, oh, don't, someone's got their headlights off, don't double click them because it's a gang initiation. They'll come and kill you after that. You know, it's that kind of shit.
How do you respond to the personals back then? Do you have to write a letter like, "Dear Mr.
Or
Homosexual"?
They leave a phone number or whatever. Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Usually just like a meet me at this place at this point in time type thing.
I think this was at Albert Gialetti's apartment, if I'm not mistaken, how he was killing. Anyway, so Leonard had decided that he wanted to add video to the repertoire and they needed to score some equipment. So they've got like equipment that is older and he's filmed cricket with it a few times, but he wants some equipment for this. The photos just aren't going to cut it for what he thinks.
So he
he's
started a
got coming
Patreon, and
see, just ahead of his time. So
we need more of those little folding chairs that say director on the back.
This is question number 17. How did he get the video equipment? Did he A, murder an entire family for it, B, rob one from a department store, C, buy one, or D, borrow one from a neighbor?
See, I don't remember any of these. Are you sure these are questions?
Murder an entire family, rob one from a dept store, buy one, borrow one. All right, Paul says that he robbed one from a department store. Bigfoot said that he borrowed one from a neighbor. What they did was find an ad in the classifieds from a part-time wedding videographer who was renting his equipment. Lake and Ng answered the ad and were excited at the opportunity. None of you guys got it right, because listen. They asked the man if they could head over right then. The pair showed up. That evening, just after dinner, Deborah, the wife, was speaking on the telephone to a friend when the doorbell rang at their family's apartment. Deborah told her friend that she had to end the conversation as two men were there interested in the items that arrived at their home. She, carrying a leather purse when she was last seen, Deborah, Harvey, and Sean, their 16-month-old son, have never been heard from again. So this is the Dubs family. Harvey, Deborah, Sean, Dubs. Once the Dubs family's neighbors saw an Asian man leave their residence with a box later in the day. So they go to check out this video equipment. They get there, and then this family is just
gone.
Disappeared.
Never seen again.
To this day.
Let's get a little further in. I can't quite remember because there are definitely
Okay.
some bodies recovered, but I don't believe this is one of them. So they were very good at making things disappear, it seemed.
They went to Seattle.
So one day, the Dubs family neighbor saw the Asian man. That's right. The same neighbor observed an unidentified vehicle drive away from the Dubs apartment on July 26th, the day following the family's disappearance. The neighbor attempted to follow the car, but she lost the vehicle in traffic. A man identifying himself as Jim Bright called Harvey's employer shortly afterwards and claimed that the family had moved to Washington. So randomly, like, he's like, "Hello, yes, my name is Jim Bright. I'm a friend of Harvey's, and I just wanted to let you know. He's gone. He moved to Washington, and he doesn't work there anymore. He's gone. Because I'm Jim Bright, so I'm letting you know that." Like, what the fuck is this guy? This stupid asshat, man. Greg, look like you wanted to say something.
No.
Okay. So the unidentified man terminated the conversation when Harvey's employer, became suspicious. What the fuck? Who are you? Jim Bright? Tell me more. There will be a few reasons we connect Ing and Lake to this crime. One will come a little further down the line. The other is later in prison. Ing is going to talk about this crime in detail to fellow inmate. I skipped this video. Greg, can you get the philosophy clip up and ready? I think it's the first part of the video.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're in order.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of talk a little bit about Lake and Ing. They're in it now together, right? So if like Lake has had Ing murder somebody, or they're believed to have murdered somebody together, this is Gianetti, and now they've got the video camera because the Dubs family is missing, and shit is on. So what this is, Greg's gonna play for us, is essentially Leonard Lake's philosophy, what he has ideas for, and he had Charles throw the tape on, and just like the journal before, now we have video camera. So he's
smart.
He's vlogging. Casey, you're kind of put the nail on the head. He's ahead of his time. Greg, you ready?
Did you say Greg?
Greg. Good evening. It's a Sunday on October.
Can you go down a little?
22nd, 23rd, something like that. Very close to my 38th birthday. And I'm starting this tape without script or without any real organization of what I want to say. But I do feel a need to explain. What I want is an off-the-shelf sex partner. I want to be able to use a woman whenever and however I want. And when I'm tired or bored or not interested, I simply want to put her away, lock her up in a little room, get her out of my sight, out of my life. A slave, there's no way around it. Primarily a sexual slave, but nonetheless a physical slave as well. And I believe that if I can construct a holding cell, a place where I can put such a woman, a facility that is so stark, so empty, so cold, so quiet, so totally removed from the world, that I can quickly condition a young woman to cooperate with me fully.
That's good.
Cooperate with this.
So he was ahead of his time. He wanted a sex robot.
But robotics had, Boston Dynamics wasn't even a company yet.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if he existed today, we might be able to be like, here's a real doll.
He could have just bought one of those
off the shelf.
Chelsea Peretti ones that was on the Joe Rogan show. And it wasn't Chelsea Peretti. It was
Whitney Cummings.
Whitney Cummings, that's right. So yeah, that's his philosophy, but a lot of that is very indicative of the collector. It's like he based his life around this fucking whack book. So
Wait, hold on, you're saying basing your entire life off of like one book is not a good idea?
Ooh. What could he be referencing?
So
I just want to make sure we heard that.
The next thing they knew is that they need a new vehicle with which they could get around. They had been up to a lot of shit in the one that they had been driving, so once again, they answered an ad from the classifieds and met up with a man named Peter Costner to test, no relation to Kevin, sorry guys, to test drive a car. Question number 18, what kind of car was it? Was it A, a Chevy Nova, B, a Toyota Corolla, C, a Ford Pinto, or D, a Honda Prelude? Nova, Corolla, Pinto, Prelude. Paul says Prelude. Bigfoot says Corolla. It was a Honda Prelude. Paul gets 250 points on that one.
I remember, because then I had to Google what a Prelude looked like.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2250 to 2500.
Coming back for you.
It's a battle, guys. I like that it's been a battle, even though Paul's heard all this before. They believe that one man test drove the car while the other man sat in the back seat, Costner being in the front passenger seat. Whoever sat in the back seat seems to have had fired a single bullet through the back of Costner's head. Now, all terrible stereotypes aside, Charles Ng was known as just a terrible driver. So it's likely that Leonard Lake was
probably because you're so sleepy
operating the vehicle. Operating the vehicle, and Charles Ng was in the back seat waiting to, take care of the dude
with a bullet.
Yep. So a lot of sides point to Ng, but no one could actually be charged with Costner's murder. Running low on funds once more, the two, out of ideas for a criminal scheme, to get it, decide to apply for jobs. Paul, the next question is going to be only worth $125 to you if you get it correctly.
There's a dog involved, isn't there?
No.
Oh.
They applied at the same place, and they heard hired just about anyone that applied. Question number 19. What type of job were they applying for? Was it A, delivery drivers, B, hotel custodians, C, a moving company, or D, road construction?
I don't care where it is. I picture them showing up like Step Brothers.
We were watching Step Brothers before we went on.
Yeah, that's what I picture them as in their fucking tuxedos.
Wedding
We're here to fuck shit up.
Step Brothers was the other day.
We were watching Step Brothers.
No, it was
today.
Wedding Crashers.
No, we were not watching Wedding Crashers. You're crazy, man. It was Step Brothers.
Was it?
Yeah. Because remember Speckensy Dick and fucking what's his face in it?
But it's,
It was on when
it was,
I came over.
It was Step Brothers. It's for sure Step Brothers. Interesting.
I got aroused when you did that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it twitched a little.
So, sorry. Bigfoot says delivery drivers. Paul says hotel custodians. Paul, I curse you every time I tell you it's only worth half because nobody got that one right. What they actually did
Moving
was
people.
Both applied for a moving company. I remembered we had an extended conversation about it afterwards. That's why I didn't want to give you
I
a full
remember
run of
the
that.
conversation.
Yeah, but the two would apply for the only Charles would be hired. He was 20 years Lake's junior and in far better shape. The moving company didn't see any of Ng's red flags for kleptomania, even though he was pretty much stealing the entire time he worked there. He made good friends with fellow employee Perry McFarland, who would practice dumb foo. Did I write that? Yeah, he would practice dumb foo with Charles, and the two would occasionally grab dinner and a beer together. So Charles has someone other than Leonard to talk to now, which is like pretty new for him since he's been out of prison. He had another coworker that he got along with in the exact opposite end of the spectrum. This man's name was Clifford Parento. It was said that the two were constantly at each other's throats during the workday. Generally, Clifford challenged Ng and made his life tough because he thought he was a joke. Then, Super Bowl Sunday of 1985, Charles Parento would be seen for the last time ever. Ng convinced him to help out with a freelance moving gig that was going to take place at a cabin that Leonard Lake lived in. When Clifford arrived, he was likely killed quite quickly. Ng also claims that Lake was the one that killed him. Another worker from the company was killed by who is now believed to be Charles Ng. This man's name was Jeffrey Gerald. Question number 20. Why did Ng kill Jeffrey Gerald? Was it A, that Ng thought he should be a supervisor? B, Ng found him very annoying? Ng found him to be a threat? Or Ng told some of the secrets and was afraid he'd tell? All right, both of you guys answered A, that he thought he should be Ng thought he should be his supervisor, and the reason is that he did believe that he should be his supervisor. Ng decided to possibly murder him was due in large part to the fact that he took several weeks worth of leave, and when he came back, he got his old job still in front of Charles Ng. So Charles Ng, he's like, I bust my ass. This guy gets to take several weeks off. It's because his wife had a kid. And he had vacation time banked and sick time or whatever. Like, this guy was, like, totally legit taking the time off. But he was like, why would he stay in front of me? So, he killed him.
Seems unwarranted. I'd like to say that.
Maybe.
I was just going to say reasonable.
So, the reason Ng decided to possibly murder him was due in large part to the fact that he was able to take several weeks of leave and come back to his old job. Ng saw how to work below him. To get him pumped up for what he really wanted to do, Leonard told him that life and work should be more like Nam. And if you don't get what you want, make it happen some way or another, even if someone has to die.
Because he killed a lot of people in Nam.
Yep, so they killed Gerald, and then they burned his body and spread the ashes around the cabin property. According to Ng, it was Lake who killed Gerald. Not too long after this, the two are going to find their way into their first M-Lady. Ing was involved in a few side criminal projects with a man named Mike Carroll. Mike Carroll had a younger girlfriend named Kathleen Allen. They get Mike out to the cabin and incapacitate him. There's a little controversy here as well as to what happens next. Some say that Leonard himself called her to say that stay calm, but Mike was in trouble and she could help. They would send someone to pick her up. The other story says that Mike called himself to tell her the very same, so she actually heard from her boyfriend in this one, and that someone would come to pick her up. She told her manager at the small grocery store she was working at when she got the call that Mike had been shot and she would need to take care of him for at least a few weeks. It was like her, I don't know, story, you know, like I just thrown it out there. And I think everybody kind of knew that Mike was a piece of shit. Mike was like it's like small town and he's out there fucking around a lot.
Little ditty about Jack and Diane.
So she leaves with Leonard Lake when he comes to pick her up, and that's the last time she'll be seen alive. She is heard from one additional time when she calls a friend to tell her that she was okay. There's just some weird guy wanting to take pictures of her, but she thought she could handle him. Yeah. It is likely that before Kathleen ever showed up to the cabin in Wilseyville that Mike was long dead. Kathleen would fortunately become one of the first two M-Ladies on tape that would eventually be found. Greg, can we get that tape of Kathy in the chair? You don't have to show it. It's like so delayed that it's kind of tough.
We'll be as nice as we can to you within the limits of keeping you prisoner. If you don't go along with this, we'll probably take you into the bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you. Sorry, lady. Time's up. Make your choice. Tell me when to hear. While you're here, we'll keep you busy. You'll wash for us, you'll clean for us, cook for us, you'll cook for us. That's your choice in a nutshell. It's not much of a choice. Unless you've got death wish.
So yeah, it's not much of a choice unless you've got a death wish. Greg, could you just give him a still of what that looks like? The delay just makes it tough because the subtitle's like one kind of clip behind what we're hearing. But if they could just see a still of what she looks like in that chair. I think Paul's seen it, but still.
Yeah.
It's pretty harrowing.
My mind, for some reason, goes to when people say, like, yeah, it's creepy.
They just have her tied up in a chair and telling her, like, you're going to be our fucking slave or we're going to fucking kill you.
And she was like, all right, cool.
Yeah, she's like, well, I guess I have to be available. See, right here, she's handcuffed and she's got ankle shackles on. But once she agrees to it, they let her out and tell her, like, well, there you fucking go. And then, like, one of the clips, the further it goes along here, the more clothes she's got cut off her. So, thank you, Greg. In this video, she seems pretty scared. Why wouldn't you be? There are unreleased portions of the tape that apparently show more violent physical and psychological torture. Understandable why those tapes will never become available. Actually, could you just really quickly run it and show do the video of her? This one, she's laying down flat in bed. She has no shirt on, but she does have shorts on. And I think prior to the video camera being turned on, she had made some kind of noise, whether it was like an attempt to get somebody to hear her or not. I think Leonard turned the camera on to film himself having this conversation with her.
If it ever arises again, if there's any circumstance whatsoever that leads me to think that you're even attempting to make noise, it's immaterial as to whether I hear you or anyone else hears you. You will be whipped very severely. And tell me you understand.
I understand.
I'm having a little war within myself between what I want to do and what we might call the decent thing to do. And for the moment, the decent thing to do is winning. So, rest. Okay. I just want you to know that I'm getting a protest.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
I wonder what the decent thing to do.
I think that was the decent thing to do, is to not do anything about it right then and there. And then the bad thing was what he wanted to do.
Whip the hell out of her.
Or whatever, yeah. So that clip is, again, that's heavy, like to see it like that. And like, she's like, I mean, you think about being in a situation like that, you're like, yeah, I fucking rip a bed apart. But like, dude, I mean, you got a fucking knife in your back or a gun to your head or like, and you've been told like, I'll fucking kill you if you even fucking. I mean, I've never even been in anything close.
You were way more angrier than he was right now.
Yeah.
He was super calm.
Yeah, well, and and he's pretty well spoken.
Yeah,
and he's like, he's it's anomalous to me to see like, I guess it's not because Ted Bundy was the same fucking way and Jeffrey Dahmer was the same. It's very weird, man. I mean, just to see them in action, I guess you didn't see Ted Bundy, hitting on chicks in the parking lot. You don't have a videotape of that, like.
It's being a sociopath, though. It's being able to turn that off and on and being able to conform to the situation that, being able to conform to what you need to be to fit that situation to get what you want.
Right.
That's what he's being. Like, if he knows if he screams and yells, she's going to freak out and she's not going to hear anything he says. That makes her harder to train. So if he speaks to her in a calm tone, she's going to listen because he's not yelling. She's not going to yell.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds exactly right, and why wouldn't it work like that? And he seems to understand the psyche enough to, do what he's doing. So there's no telling exactly how long Kathy spent in the house and the bunker of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, but one thing is certain is that she never left at any point. After there was no more Kathy, Leonard began to type his journal, which would also play a significant part in the cast later too. Not too long after Kathy was gone, Lake and Ng got some new neighbors. About 100 yards away was the cabin where Lonnie Bond, his wife Deborah, and their infant son Lonnie Bond Jr. had just moved in. Also, immediately, Lonnie and Leonard, who had introduced himself as Charles Gunner, took a disliking to one another, mainly due to the fact that Lonnie would do target practice on his own property in a perfectly legal manner, and Lake didn't like it. Or Gunner, if you want to go that way, Fat Charles. So he just kept it. He's like, well, I called him that, and that's who I am.
He's not good with making fake names.
A few months later they would have a friend move in with them named Scott Stapley. And around this time, as a show of good faith, Leonard asked the Bonds if he could take their family photos as an apology for being an asshole before. They accepted, and as a little more time went on, the invitations were geared a lot more towards Deborah, kind of getting her exclusive into some photos, and that she was so beautiful, and Leonard would love to photograph her, and maybe naked if she thought right of it. April of 1985, Lake would invite the young family and friend Scott Stapley over for dinner, and during the course of the evening, Lake and Ng were able to separate Deborah from the men. It is thought that when she was tied up and incapacitated while the men were incapacitated. Later, testimony and evidence would show that the two men were likely shot in the head quickly and probably had little time to do anything about it. When the bodies of Lonnie and Scott are found, they will have ball gags in their mouth and their hands are tied behind their back. According to Charles, the baby, Lonnie Jr., was killed when Lake put the child's head between his thighs and twisted the body until the kid stopped moving. There is nothing to corroborate this.
Yo, that's intense.
But it is the only really official statement made about it at all. This is when the M-Lady tapes of Deborah begin. Only one clip is accessible to us. And if you could, Greg, please give us the Deborah clip.
You let us go?
Probably not.
Why are you doing this?
Because we hate you.
Yeah.
Your baby is going to be taken away. Excuse me.
I'm going to get it taken away.
There's a family down in Fresno that doesn't have a baby.
You're not taking my baby.
And the baby's dead, right?
I mean, they got one now. That's my baby.
Brenda, you have it. Her baby is sound asleep, like a rock. We don't like you, but I'd like me to put it in writing.
It's done. Just stick it whatever we tell you.
Dude, I'm more intrigued about like the forest wallpaper that's in there.
Nothing is yours now. You're totally ours.
I feel like that's a window.
I don't think so.
They're in a cabin.
It's so hard.
I don't think so.
Sick.
Supper.
I'm going to pass out in the night or something. Well, you can pass out, but we won't wake you up.
Brenda, I have a lot of animosity against you, and I would just as soon start you out with a nice firm whipping right now to make you believe how serious we are.
Yeah, and I mean she definitely pushed back a little more. And I said Deborah, I'm sorry. Let me just take it all back and say Brenda from the beginning. I apologize that I had that incorrect. Her name is Brenda. He called her Brenda. I was thinking they were using an alias until he said it. So I am wrong a lot. So hey Greg, let us see you. I'm sick of looking at cricket already. Okay, there's no way to know how long Brenda was down there either. But the only thing that's certain, and like nobody dies on these tapes, so right? There's in like the court of the law, like we see that they had her,
but never actually killed her, or at least on video.
Right. So approximately 2 months after Deborah was no more, according to Leonard's journal, the two went to a small town hardware store to get a few supplies. While wandering, the ever compulsive Charles Ng decided that he was going to steal the bench vise he wanted instead of buying it. This would prove an incredibly costly mistake. Question number 1. Not stealing this vice could have made this story go in a complete different direction. How much was the vice that he stole worth? Like if they just bought it, they could have maybe gotten away with all this. But they stole it. Closest to the answer gets 250 points. If you nail it, it is worth 1,000.
1,000.
Bigfoot says $59.99. Paul said $17. This bench vise cost $75. Bigfoot's going to get an additional 250 points on question number 21. He's going to take that to 3,000. Paul is at 2,500. We're winding down, and it's going to start getting a little rapid fiery here, guys. June 2nd, 1995, Ng steals the vice, puts it in his jacket, and is seen clear as day by one of the store's employees. He goes out to the car to put it away, while Lake continues walking around the hardware store. Lake is detained by store security and pretends that he doesn't know what's happening. When he is told what is happening, he offers to pay for the vice in question. The store isn't satisfied with that and calls the police anyway. Moments after they approached Lake, Ng returned from the car and saw that he was being surrounded by store staff and fled as fast as he could without stirring any commotion. When the police arrived, Lake is agitated and says that he has already paid for the property his friend stole, and he clearly had no idea what he was up to. However, the officers could see the vice clearly in the vehicle, giving them probable cause to search the rest of the vehicle. When they do, they find something else of interest. Question number 22. What did they find that kicked off a major search into the background of these two guys? Was it A, a modified weapon, B, bloodstains, C, a kill kit, or D, a human bone? Modified weapons, bloodstains, kill kit, human bone. B. Paul says that it is bloodstains. Bigfoot says that it's a human bone, but they find in the vehicle a pistol that had been modified with a silencer. So modifying weapons is illegal in your homemade fashion. Don't do it. Especially if you're killing people. Don't just keep it in your car. No more advice. As they begin to look into things a little more, they run into the license plate on the vehicle and find out that it belongs to a different vehicle and person altogether. The plates come from a car owned by a man named Lonnie Bond. They run the vehicle VIN and find that the brown Honda Prelude is registered to a missing man named Paul Costner. When they check Leonard's ID, they realize the man in the photo on the ID is not the man they are talking to. Lake is in possession of and using the identity of Scott Stapley. Things are starting to look a little funny here, and they decide to haul him downtown where he is placed in an interview room. Before we get too deep into it, question, here it is.
That's what you say when you forget the question number.
Yeah. I've got 23 and 24 back to back. What I'm going to do is actually going to skip one of these. We're eliminating the question number 23 because Leonard Lake kills himself like right away. Okay, Casey. So, question number 24. In what year does Charles Ng die? The current year is 1985. Did you remember that?
No, not even a little bit.
Oh, okay, well.
Cool.
I didn't like the chances of you being able to score a G bar on it if you had.
Why? I'm losing by less than
You
that.
would have taken a 500-point lead.
Yeah, I need it.
Nah. What year did Charles Ng die?
Did you already tell him how Leonard Lake killed himself?
No.
No, we'll get to it. I have the story in here.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't like check out for a second and miss it.
Don't want to miss that grandiose adventure. You're right, I think.
Okay, Bigfoot said 2001. Paul said 1996. Bigfoot's going to get the points because he's still alive, guys. Still alive.
See, that's my fault. He's almost always still alive.
I know.
I've always said that.
So we'll get back to that when we get there because, yes, listen, they go in and the very moment that they have some questions about, sorry, thank you.
I can keep score as the assistant.
Sure. I don't know, man. I don't know if I like that, actually. You're not assistant this time. So remember at this very moment, they just have some questions for Lake about what the fuck is going on with his car. So they've got him in a room. Like, there's some weird shit happening, but they're not like, you killed 10 people. What the fuck is happening? So they take him to the police station where he tells them his real name and quickly gives up Charles Ng. He asks for a piece of paper, a pen, and a glass of water. To write down the entire story. The officer leaves the room and returns about 20 minutes later to find that Lake is on the ground convulsing. They rush him to the hospital where he dies of cyanide poisoning.
I forgot about that again.
Yep.
Do we know which one he took?
I don't. Well, I think it was sewed into his clothes.
Did he give out Ng already?
Yeah, in the car, he was like, "Is this guy Charles Ng? Yes, I was part of some of this stuff. But it was him. He's the one who stole it. Where'd he go? So yes, but Ng flipped on him later when he's gonna get picked up, just as fast.
He's Jose.
No loyalty.
Yeah, no loyalty. Plus, you killed yourself when you tried to throw somebody else under the bus. Like, shouldn't you wait a little bit and be like,
no, he got to write his letter.
Is this gonna work?
I think that was the idea. That was just he got his letter. So he would actually die 3 days later. Sorry. He would die 3 days later. I'm not sure if this is the one on his tooth or his clothes he was wearing, but one thing was certain. He had it, and they made it back to his cabin before he could be free again. Sorry. Now that they see that he's killed himself, they're like, all right, let's go fucking find some shit out about this. The letter that he wrote was to Cricket, saying that he missed and loved her and apologizing to she and her family about what they're about to go through. Police were already in the process of towing the vehicle, but the death of Lake made them bring it in so they could investigate it even further. In it, they would find an electrical bill for a cabin in the name of a woman named Carolyn Ballas, or Cricket. They reach out to her and meet up with her and her parents' home. She tells them that they are far too busy today to go with them, but she could meet them out there tomorrow. The police department calls up the jurisdiction in Wilseyville to let them know that they'll be over to do a search on the property the following day and ask them to please keep an eye on the property. Unfortunately, staffing for the size of the jurisdiction made it impossible for someone to be there all night. The next morning, when the police meet up with Cricket, she admits to them that she had gone up there the night before and tidied up due to how filthy the boys lived, and that she hadn't changed anything of any importance. The officers, although upset, still follow her up to the cabin so that they may look around. When they arrive, they notice the bunker, which had appeared to them to be a tool shed made from cinder blocks. Cricket does not grant them access to that building, only the main house. Irene Braun was a detective who was on the Paul Cosner missing case, so when the car came in as being his, she was notified because the case had been cold and is now reopened. She was one of the detectives who was putting part of the preliminary search, which was voluntary, allowed by Cricket. Question number 25, what would they find that would immediately get a search warrant signed when they needed it? So they get into this voluntary search, they get to poke around for a little bit, and they find something. And they take that information back, and they're like, yep, sign that shit. Is it what appeared to be a murder room, camera equipment, a large mysterious stain, or some videotapes?
I don't like how little I remember. So this is annoying. This is a lot annoying.
All right. Bigfoot says videotapes. Paul says that it was a mysterious stain, but what it was camera equipment. What Irene Braun notices
without a tape.
In one bedroom, there was a bed that had ties in all four corners, and in the corner of that room was a camcorder facing the bed. she thought that she recognized the camera and wrote down the serial number of it because she was not only the detective on the Paul Cosner case, but she was the detective on the Dubs family murder, in which they knew that a video camera matching this description was missing due to Paul Cosner's receipts and things of inventory that he had, and they were not in the home. So, after some pretty heavy snooping and questioning of Cricket, she grows frustrated and asks them to leave. Braun had all she needed, however, as a search warrant would only take a few hours to come to fruition when she realized that the camera she had witnessed in that bedroom had belonged to the Dubs family, a case that she had investigated. She took her notes from the property home and matched exactly the serial numbers from the Dubs records of their cameras to the camera found in the cabin. The following day, the property is more properly surveyed and with a search warrant. They survey the land nearby and locate many scorch marks in the ground where it appears a large, very hot fires were burned. In this general area, what appears to be a significant amount of ash and debris seems to be spread out. One astute officer notices and believes that they are seeing bone fragments in the ground. Around a similar time, another investigator locates a shallow pit that is filled with personal items such as clothing and accessories. Knowing now that things are being buried leads them to survey for additional soft spots in the soil. In one near the cabin, in what would be the front yard, they find a plastic barrel. Question number 26. 3 of these things were found in the barrel. What was not? Naked photo albums, a VHS tape, survival food, a knife.
Knife.
Dang. Both of them say there was no knife, and that is absolutely correct. When they get in there,
I get more
it
points.
has several photo albums of naked women, a VHS tape, and what many report as MREs.
Which are, I hear, delicious.
I heard some of them are not bad at all. I heard some are pretty fucking terrible.
Well, just get the good ones.
In addition to this site, they found another partially cremated human liver that a medical examiner would go on to say came from a child between 3 and 7 years old. But none of their known victims are any of that age range, leading us to believe that there may be more victims that we don't know about. But who knows? I'm not that medical examiner. I didn't see it. I don't know. But this medical examiner saying this is not an infant child and this is not a full-grown adult. This is like 3 to 7
midget.
area. Maybe so. Maybe they didn't take that into account.
No, midgets drink alcohol. You'd be able to tell.
During all of this, a dog is out searching the areas and returns with a human bone with flesh still attached. The owners follow it back to where it found it, and they find more human bones that have flesh attached under a burnt piece of plywood. They would recognize it as a spine, later identified as that of Kathleen's, the woman from the first tape. Also, while searching Lake's house, they will look at Charles' apartment he kept, where they find an additional tape that has a TV movie on it. The detective watching it says that he got to the end, and when he hit rewind, but he didn't stop it. Remember the classic, like it took 4 times as long, but for whatever reason you didn't hit stop to do rewind. So he did that, and at the very end it like stops and clicks, and for one frame it's on an image of what appears to be 2 bodies stuffed in a wheelbarrow. That like it's been taped over, like, you know, but there's one fucking frame that just randomly he found because he rewound. Later on the property, they would find the bodies of Lonnie Bond and Scott Stapley buried within the very sleeping bags that they were inside the wheelbarrow, the one frame of the video. The most haunting find would come on the second day of the investigation. On the first, they finally get the shed open and see 21 photos of women taped to the wall in different stages of undress. Other than that, nothing seems too out of the ordinary about the tool shed. On the second day, while investigating it once more, another officer realizes the wall has some shelves on it that are false. They open the false wall, which turns out to be a door which leads to a narrow corridor. At the end of the corridor was a quote-unquote living area, which contained a crude cot, a dresser, a bookshelf, which held a copy of The Collector, and a table with a lamp. Past this living area, you would have a small, quote, bathroom and cell, which was 3.5 by 6 feet and had a 5-gallon bucket under a wood platform with a roll of toilet paper nearby. Hung in this cell was a list of rules typed up for Lake by his captives. There are not, I'm sure there's someone has typed out this list, but almost everybody posts like a real photograph of it, and it's a piece of shit and hard to read, so I didn't pull it up. We'll post it to the Instagram or Facebook, once we find like a good little someone riding it out. But let's just charge right into the finish here. I was going to take one more little break, but we're running late. So Charles is able to make it to his sister's house in Canada because he's on the run now. Like, he understands, like, shit is going crazy. They've just discovered this bunker, this house, this rules list that pretty much says, you're my slave, shut the fuck up and listen. Your mouth shouldn't be open unless you're eating or sucking dick. That's the long and short of the whole
That would
thing.
suck for a mouth breather.
Yeah. So Leonard is dead. Charles is on the run, and the story doesn't get any less crazy. Charles is able to make it to his sister's house in Canada after he called Cricket, and she got him some money to fund his fugitive escape. The authorities completely lost touch with Ing and had no idea where this dangerous criminal would have gotten to. However, Ing cannot help himself and is approached while shoplifting in Canada. He pulls a gun, and during the altercation with a security officer and another patron, the officer is shot in the hand, but is able to continue to hold Ing down until the police arrive. He is booked into Canadian jail under shoplifting and assault with a deadly weapon charges. He would be charged with these crimes in Canada, aware of his situation, is willing to extradite him once his time in their justice system is served. Okay, so he's shoplifting. He shoots a fucking security guard in the hand. The security guard, badass, still holds him down. The police arrive. Additionally, he's taken in. He also requests for a bench trial instead of a jury trial because he wants to stretch it out as long as he can. Bench trials are a little tougher, and usually they're found guilty in a much higher percentage of them. Question number 26. For how long was Ing put away for the assault during his shoplifting? Closest to the answer gets 250 points, 1,000 if you nail it. Someone can nail it now.
I'm not confident in that. Are you confident?
No.
No.
Bigfoot says 6 months. Paul says 7 years. Paul's going to get 250 points there.
Hey.
He did 4 years.
Hey. Are we tied? Are we tied yet? Are we tied?
No.
We're not tied?
Oh, you are. Yep. 3,000 to 3,000. Paul, you really better hope for it not to be a tie when you get there.
That'll hurt. That'll hurt a lot. Although he would choose, this little fucker on the TV would choose an artistic challenge, and I would surely lose.
This little fucker on the TV.
Even with bribery.
Who? Where?
The one on the TV. No. Look, yeah. Look at the little box probably in the top right.
So he gets put in for a 4-year sentence, and there are certain treaties in place at the time that say that Canada does not have to extradite Ing back to any state that intends to kill him, but they also agree that the evidence and heinous nature of the crimes make this a good time to bend the rules. During this time, he makes good friends with the man in the cell next to him. The man is named Maurice Laberge, and he learned a lot about him. Charles Ing, through the stories they told with crude comics that Ing had drawn for him, some of which depicted the murder of children and specific women as they were mentioned by name. Once Charles' time is completed, he is extradited back to San Francisco. Once there, he meets his legal team, and they have some heated exchanges. Some believe that Ing was doing all that he could to lengthen the process once more, and a new legal team would say that they're having a hard time finding a jury that can remain unbiased after interviewing nearly 1,000 people. They file for a petition to move the case to another county. It is agreed upon, and this case will be moved to Southern California, where Ing's new public defenders have just been handed a 30-foot moving truck worth of information and evidence. They request a time to look it all over to start the trial. So essentially a new DA gets the whole list here, and they're like, dude,
that's a lot.
That's a 30-foot truck full of shit. They're like, yeah, we need you to do this. So I'm going to make this worth 500 instead of 1,000 just in case somebody nails it. How long did they ask for? They get a 30-foot truck. We're the new DA. We got to charge this thing. How long do they need to go through that 30-foot truck of evidence, put together the case, and get ready to bring it to trial? 500 if you nail it. Closest to the answer gets 250 points.
Just assume I'm not going to nail anything.
Well, I'd rather keep it interesting here than since you've done it before. Normally I wouldn't do shit like this, but all right. Bigfoot says 2 weeks. Paul says 6 months. They ask for 2.5 years to look over the caseload, to put it together. Paul's going to get 250 more to take a 3,250 to 3,000 lead.
Casey's like,
I demand a
we've done it in
recount.
6 weeks.
So we've got 2 questions left. They request and are granted 2.5 years to go through the preliminary case, which says that there's enough evidence, although mostly circumstantial, against Ng to charge him with 12 murders. Ng is a shit show in court, having outbursts with his lawyer being made to wear a shock belt. Not his lawyer, sorry. He's outbursts with his lawyer. He's made to wear a shock belt so that the bailiff can use it should he get out of line again. The prosecution has mountains of circumstantial evidence and the words of Maurice Laberge, who has agreed to testify, but all of the waiting would prove poor for the prosecution, as Maurice Laberge would die before the trial in a motor vehicle accident. The defense pointed out many things that Ng was in the tapes, that he was part of Leonard Lake's crew, but the other thing that they had zero evidence for was the fact that Charles Ng had killed someone. They even went as far as to say that the bones found on the property were likely that of cats. After it was nearly all said and done, Ng was not happy with what he heard and asked to go on the witness stand himself, which you guys probably know people up for capital murder generally do not do. Advised against it by his legal team, but he did it anyway, and any shred of hope they had at that point seemed to go out the window. There were a few statements made by a man named Ed Popovich, who was also an inmate with Ng, but at Leavenworth earlier. They stayed in touch closely after Ng was let out, and Popovich was let out much later. He said that Ng had weird nicknames for things, and that one of the things... Oh, that like Leonard Lake had Charles Ng cook always. Like, Charles Ng used to make jokes about how, like, in the speech, Leonard would tell him, like, they're going to cook for us and clean for us. He's like, but I did all the cooking. Like, they never cooked. And so... that's so fucking stupid. So they stayed really close, and one of the nicknames he had given for children was suckers. Like, he called kids suckers. Like, oh, fucking suckers. And what he had told this guy was that he had roasted suckers before. Ng would also admit to all of the M-Lady activity as well to Popovich and tell him that he could be the third in their crew. Popovich never took up Ng on this offer. After all the statements and closing arguments are said, the trial is finally completed and the jury sequesters themselves into a room to decide on the Charles Ng's fate in 12 counts of murder. When the jury returns, they find Charles guilty. 12 murders of how many? Remember, we've got one witness, mountains of circumstantial evidence, 12 charges of murder. How many murders is he going to be charged with? The jury goes in. This is like a 4 years in the making trial from the time that, or I think 6 years, from the time that the crime takes place and Leonard Lake kills himself, from he escaping, being caught, going through Canadian prison, coming here, the witness, the change of venue, the 2.5 years. We're finally at the end of this.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's 6 years after he was caught for the crimes that he's going to trial for them.
I mean, he's done a great job getting, like, the extensions, dragging this out as long as possible.
Yeah. That's what he was trying to do. Okay, Paul says 12. Bigfoot says 2. On this day, Charles Ng is going to be charged and found guilty of 11 of the 12 murders.
I almost put 11 too. That would have been cool. Hi, Casey. Would that have been cool?
So Paul's up 3,500 to 3,000. Y'all. Okay. So Charles Ng will be found guilty on 11 of 12. He is sentenced to death. Today, Charles Ng sits on death row. I'm going to make this worth 500. So if Casey gets it and Paul doesn't, it will be a tie. I can make it worth 1,000 so he just wins outright and you don't have to lose because of the non-tiebreaker.
What you're saying is next point wins.
This is the last point. If Casey can get it, he wins, but there's no multiple choice on this.
Making the last 3 hours completely irrelevant.
Okay, question number 30. Charles Ng sits on death row in what California prison?
Oh, it's definitely one of those two, probably.
Maybe.
Bigfoot said Folsom. Paul said San Quentin.
I hate you.
And we'll be right back after this commercial break. No. Paul's experience pays off because, yes, it is indeed San Quentin. Paul hits 4,000 points after being here for this already and 30 questions.
I did it, guys. Guys, I win.
and wins it outright. We are at 3 hours, 45 minutes recording. I'm so sorry to keep you guys until 12:30 in the morning. I know you guys have better things to do than Serial Chiller season finales.
Do you know me?
Good to hear that Paul doesn't. I know Casey does, but he's being a great sport.
I just have to go clean up dog poop.
Nice.
It's still there?
I don't know.
It could be. It could be.
Let us know. I'm worried.
So we are done. I don't have a date right now for you. I think I wrote it on the calendar somewhere, but we'll get all you guys the information. Once you have heard this, you may not hear from us for the first week after. As far as an episode goes, we're probably going to take one off. But definitely we will keep you up to date on all the information through the podcast thread, and all of the social media. So make sure to follow up on all of those. Congratulations, Paul. It truly wasn't. It definitely helps to be reminded of it.
Mm-hmm.
But myself, I wrote those, and I was going through them today, 5 weeks later, and I had to look up a couple because a lot of times I don't put the answers right there. I just remember them, But it's been 5 weeks since we did this last, and I had to look up some of the answers because I didn't fucking put them in there. So while you did have some experience, still impressive to get to 4,000 points. Great job. Bigfoot,
right?
You got to fucking 3,500 without being here.
That's more than
last time.
Robbie did.
So,
I'm just glad that my buddy can go home and sleep happy today.
There you go.
This continues my when I don't drink on the show, I win streak, too.
Huh, wonder what you should do from that. All right. Well,
last time I drank, I scored 1,200 on this stupid episode.
Hey. All right,
Part
Bigfoot, tell them where they can find you.
BIGGFOOT
Yeah. Do it.
Peep that.
Buy his hats. I have a hat.
Oh, he has a hat.
Apparel. Paul, want to take a victory lap?
I do.
Very good. All right.
I do have to say before I get yelled at. So I lost a bet to somebody, and I have to say they're the greatest person. Please, God, cut this out. Lindsay is the greatest person.
That's staying in.
Fuck.
Okay, hello, Greg. Would you like to leave any imparting words as we end episode 100 and head into the abyss, heading for the triple digits for at least the next 6 years?
I love you, Greg.
Love you too, man. No.
You're just like, oh, hey, it's 12:40. Let's get the fuck out of here.
It's not even that. Just there's been a lot of information processed this evening.
It's true. There was no way to make this short.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot of information. You have a ton of information. I brought some information. There's a lot of information processed, and I think my forehead might burst.
Yeah. So just during the break, you guys, think about signing up for the Patreon if you haven't. Even $1 is going to get you, like I said, we have a little surprise coming up. I think it's going to be really, really fun. The $5 gets you hella conspiracies.
That's what I'm excited about.
And not only that, you're not only getting these bonus shows, every single level gets you something. $1 gets you a shout out. $5 gets you a sticker pack. It goes on and on. All
Y'all want a letter from me?
Give 20, give 15, 20. What is it? I don't even remember now.
Something.
Give some money to Paul's fan level. You'll get a letter from Paul.
Yeah, I like fan.
If you haven't got one yet, it's because of Paul, not because of me.
It's definitely because of me. And I apologize to the 2, maybe 3 people.
Wait, did you say you apologize?
Oh.
No.
He's like, in my whole life, I've never actually even thought of that.
I really haven't. This is a whole new world.
So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is all of the Patreon stuff, it pretty much once you pass $10, you're bringing merchandise besides stickers home. So, there are T-shirts and hoodies and long sleeves and mugs, and there's a bunch of stuff out there. So you join and you give and you get back. Not only the bonus content, the show we keep getting to do, but you get a little bit of swag to show off with. And anybody who gives $10 or more, essentially anytime a new sticker design comes out, it's just going to show up at your door. I'm not going to lie to you and say we do 100 a year or anything, but when it comes out, we are going to order that many extra and make sure that every single one of you $10 or more patrons at the time are going to be getting those new stickers. So lifetime sticker updates for anybody give more than $10, $5 for anybody more. 5 or more is hella conspiracies. $1 more is a fun little surprise you guys will know about soon. Thank you guys for getting us this far. Thank you, Bigfoot. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Hella Greg. And thank you, everybody, for putting us through 100 episodes of the Serial Chillers podcast. And remember, don't talk to strangers.
I still think they can.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Greg.
wormhole.
This has been another presentation from Super Network.